Good afternoon and welcome to the National Capital Planning Commission's June 4th, 2026 open session. First, Madam Secretary, could you please take the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Cozart.
Here.
Commissioner Brooke.
Here.
Commissioner Bowron.
Here.
Commissioner Argo.
I'm here.
Vice Chairman Levenbach.
Here.
Chairman Scharf.
Here.
Commissioner Ingracia.
Here.
Commissioner Dixon.
Here.
Commissioner Cash.
Present.
With those present, Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Noting the presence of a quorum, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today's meeting is live streamed and will be the video of it will be available on our website within a few days, as is our custom. If there's no objection, the agenda as posted is adopted as the order of business. And now let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Agenda item number 2 is the report of the chairman, which is me. I'd like to say a few things before we get started. First of all, this is the last meeting that we will have before we celebrate the 250th birthday of the United States of America. As you all know, the United States of America is the oldest currently operating republic in the world. If anybody cites San Marino in contrast to that, I will fight you on the history of that point. But I think it's really a remarkable milestone that this republic, conceived in liberty, has lasted as long as it has and is going as strong as it is. As I've said at a number of previous meetings, Washington, D.C. as a city was conceived and in fact functions as the way that America holds itself out to the world. And I think in light of that, the work that this commission does is incredibly important, both to the city of Washington, D.C. and the region as it currently stands, and also to the expression of this nation's history that this city often encompasses. It's been a tremendous honor to lead this commission over the last year. I was appointed to this commission and designated as chairman almost exactly a year ago now. I guess I may be about a month short. I think next meeting will be over a year, but this is my last meeting before we hit that year-long milestone. And it's just truly been an honor to get to work on the projects that we work on, whether it's the big stuff, Southwest DC, Pennsylvania Avenue, or the smaller features that often pass unnoticed, 5G installations on the roofs of buildings, renovations to various park sites. It's all important because this city is important to our nation. And I think the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence is a good milestone and a good opportunity to reflect on what this city is and what this commission does. I think it's particularly fitting in light of that two of the projects we have before us today are the Monumental Arch, which is intended to commemorate 250 years of American history, and also renovations to the Civil War defenses around this city. I think it's important to remember that America has confronted great challenges over its 250 years. I think the Civil War probably foremost in that set of challenges. And I think there's a nice symmetry in a way almost for us to be looking, symmetry is probably the wrong word, but some nice symbolism in that we're looking at these two projects as we approach our nation's 250th. I'll also note, with respect to the Arch project, there was a site visit today that our staff arranged. I was very sorry to miss that site visit down to Memorial Circle and Arlington House. My other job pulled me out of that this morning. I did see pictures on Commissioner Ingracia's Instagram account, though. It looked like y'all got some great views of the relevant view sheds. And I just wanted to express my appreciation to NCPC staff for setting that up for the benefit of the commission. I've been down to that site on my own a number of times in the last few months. and really understanding the view sheds and understanding the physical space, as with so much that we do on this commission, is vitally important. So thank you for setting that up. Today, we will be considering or we will be voting on comments on the concept plans for the arch. I'll note for those present that this is not our final review of the project. That will come at a later meeting. Looking forward, I'm excited to hear the presentation today. We have a relatively large number of individuals who have signed up to testify publicly on this project. I'm excited to hear that testimony as well. One of those individuals even sent us pretty detailed architectural plans of their own vision of how the arch could be constructed differently, which I appreciated. We're going to have, as we have with all projects that come before us, a thorough process on this project, and I'm excited to get to go through that process with our commission as we approach ultimately a final decision on that issue or on that project. I will say we've received media outreach in the last few days, in particular on an issue I'd like to speak about at a bit more length. And that's the applicability of the Height of Buildings Act to this project. In the executive director's report, or in the comments that we'll be voting on to approve today, we asked the applicant to address the Height of Buildings Act in the context of this project. And I'm excited to see the applicant, assuming we approve the proposed comments, I'm excited to see the applicant do so. I will note that 40 U.S.C. 8222D, which is in our organic authorizing statute, requires us to consider the height of projects when we vote on them, the height of projects in addition to a number of other features, and that is an obligation of ours. I'd also note that National Capital Planning Commission's traditional position has been that the Height of Buildings Act is enforceable against federal projects. Megan, our general counsel, flagged this issue for me when we first received this project submission. And I've thought deeply about the issue of the Height of Buildings Act and its applicability. On reflection, I find that NCPC's position is a little odd to me from a legal perspective. The Height of Buildings Act is codified as part of DC's local zoning code. Traditionally, federal projects are not subject to local zoning requirements in that way for reasons of the supremacy clause and other aspects of our system of ordered federalism and separation of powers, to be sort of blunt. Applying the Height of Buildings Act as mandatory would also raise serious issues of sovereign immunity. The Height of Buildings Act includes both civil and criminal penalties enforceable in DC local courts against anyone who builds a building in violation of the Height of Buildings Act. Typically, you would expect to see in a statute waiving sovereign immunity, an explicit waiver, which we don't have here. Additionally, giving local DC courts jurisdiction over the federal government in that way, original jurisdiction over suits against the federal government, would be a departure from usual constitutional practice. Having realized this, I went down a very weird rabbit hole of studying every prior waiver granted by Congress against the Height of Buildings Act and the history of that act. And I discovered an interesting historical quirk, which is that in 1930, two projects, both of which exceed the limits prescribed by the Height of Buildings Act, were constructed, or construction began on two projects. One was an addition to the Masonic Temple here in Washington, D.C., for which a congressional waiver was sought and which Congress approved. The other was the construction of the National Archives building, which at 166 feet tall exceeds the Height of Buildings Act. And no congressional waiver was ever sought for that, and Congress didn't speak to that. I think that certainly raises the question about whether NCPC's longstanding position as to the mandatory nature of the applicability of the Height of Buildings Act to federal construction is in fact a correct reading of the law. and I hope that the applicant team will provide clarity to us as we go forward in the form of some sort of legal opinion or legal rationale or justification, so that when and if this project comes before us for final approval, this commission can vote fully informed as to the legal issues that the Height of Buildings Act and the height of this project implicate. All that having been said, my view is that while this commission should certainly consider the Height of Buildings Act in the context of our statutorily required consideration of the height of buildings that come before us, I believe, speaking personally, that the best reading of the law is that the Height of Buildings Act is not applicable to federal construction. This is all a bit premature. I think that there's nothing about the presentation today or the action requested of this commission today that requires us to fully weigh or consider this weighty issue at this time. But I did want to preview that for the commission and for the project team, who I know are present, so that by the time this project comes before us for prelim or final, or prelim and final, that we have more guidance on this issue so that we can consider it fully as a commission. All that having been said, it's great to be back with you again this month. I'm looking forward to our open session agenda. And with that, agenda item, number 3 is the report of our Executive Director, Marcel Acosta.
Thank you, Chair Sharp, and good afternoon. I'm pleased to introduce 3 student interns who've joined this agency this summer. First, we have Jay Visser, who's a senior undergraduate pursuing a bachelor's in environmental policy and planning at Virginia Tech. Second, we have Sylvia Cabas, who's a second-year master's candidate in urban and regional planning at Georgetown University. Sylvia holds a master's in international relations from Johns Hopkins University and a bachelor's in history from the University of California, Berkeley. Finally, we have Simon Handelman, who is a second-year graduate student at Virginia Tech, pursuing a master's in architecture in a concentration in urban design. Simon earned a bachelor's degree in political science from George Washington University. Welcome, everyone, and we're pleased that you've joined us. That concludes my report, and my full report is in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
That may be the most well-credentialed group of interns I've ever heard of. Welcome. This commission is it's an incredible organization with an incredible staff. I hope you all have a great experience here this summer. How long are you guys with us for? The whole summer? Oh, great. So you'll get at least one more meeting under your belt before you leave us. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the work that you'll hopefully do in the forthcoming months. And obviously, if there's anything any of us can do for y'all, please reach out and please let me know. With that, do any commissioners have any questions or comments, either for Marcel or for our 3 interns? When I was in law school, it was called a cold call. I mean, this is hearing and seeing none. Agenda item number 4 will be the legislative update. Megan, do you want to proceed?
I don't have any specific items to provide an update on this month, but I'm happy to answer any questions about pending legislation.
Do any commissioners have any questions about pending legislation? Hearing and seeing none, we'll proceed to agenda item number 5, which is this month's consent calendar, for which we have 2 items. The first is an application from the DC Office of the Surveyor for approval of comments to the DC Council for the closing of a public alley in Square 571. And the second item is an application from the Department of the Navy for approval of a final master plan for the Naval Support Facility Suitland, final area development plan, and transportation management plan updates. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners or matters of discussion from commissioners on these items on our consent calendar? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar as stated?
I motion to approve the consent calendar as stated.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Madam, is there any discussion on this item before we proceed to a vote? Or on this motion before we proceed to a vote? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Secretary, could you please confirm the motion and the second and take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Brooke and seconded by Commissioner Argo. Commissioner Cozart,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooke,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowron,
Yes.
Commissioner Argo,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach,
Yes.
Chairman Scharf,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingracia,
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cash.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. With that, we'll move on to our open session items for today. We have 3 items scheduled. Agenda item 6A is a request to approve comments on concept plans for the new Monumental Arch. And we have Jamie Herr from our team to present on that. And I believe we have members of the project team present as well. Is that correct? I think so. Great. Jamie, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairman Scharf and members of the Commission. The U.S. Department of the Interior has submitted concept plans for a new monumental arch and memorial circle in Washington, D.C. for Commission comment. At this concept review stage, the Commission provides comments on the project and requests additional information that will inform the Commission's action at its future preliminary and final review stages. The project is proposed for Memorial Circle, an existing traffic circle on Columbia Island in Washington, D.C. The project site, circled in green, connects the Arlington Memorial Bridge to Memorial Avenue and the George Washington Memorial Parkway. The site on Columbia Island is in between the Boundary Channel and the Potomac River. To the southwest is the Arlington National Cemetery, and to the northeast is Lincoln Memorial. Now I'll give a brief overview of the site history. The need for a bridge connecting the northern and southern shores of the Potomac River in the area of the Arlington Memorial Bridge was documented as early as the mid-1800s. The concept for the bridge and avenue first emerged after the Civil War and gained momentum when it was included within the McMillan Plan, which proposed improvements to the Washington, D.C. park system. According to the Cultural Landscape Report published by the National Park Service, the Memorial Avenue corridor was designed as a symbolic and physical link between the Lincoln Memorial, a tribute to the 16th American president, the entrance to Arlington National Cemetery, and Arlington House, the former plantation home of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. The design of the corridor took shape amongst the City Beautiful movement, which promoted formal and classical treatments for architectural, engineering, sculptural, and landscape features, all of which were incorporated into the evolving designs for the Arlington Memorial Bridge and the Memorial Avenue corridor. The corridor was built in phases. The Arlington Memorial Bridge was constructed between 1926 and 1932. The Boundary Channel Bridge was built between 1929 and 1930. Memorial Avenue was built beginning in 1930. And finally, Memorial Circle was constructed on Columbia Island in 1940. Memorial Circle was designed as part of the western terminus of the Arlington Memorial Bridge as a means to connect to the George Washington Memorial Parkway, Arlington Boulevard, and Memorial Avenue. The connections to and around the Memorial Circle have changed significantly over the years, as shown here in this progression from 1940 to 1966 and to 1988. Which leads us to the current conditions with several connecting roadways at and below grade around the circle connecting to a variety of roadways. Now I will review the existing site conditions in more detail. Safety improvements were completed at Memorial Circle in 2006 and 2007 that reduced the number of lanes around the circle. Along the north and south sides of the circle, the outermost travel lanes were replaced with concrete shoulder lanes. These were later replaced with pavers that remain today. You can see in this 2016 image that the park police were adding digital signage and traffic cones to manage the traffic. Additional work in 2020 reduced the travel lanes in the circle to 1, changed the paving materials, modified connecting roadways, and changed the pedestrian access and roadway efficiency by splitting this traffic island shown here in this image from 2025. The most recent design changes I just noted from 2020 were intended to improve transportation safety at and near Memorial Circle while maintaining the memorial character of the area. The goals were to reduce risks at key locations within the corridor and to reduce conflicts between trail, walkway, and roadway users. These changes including splitting the eastern traffic island to create continuous vehicular movement as shown here. The changes restricted pedestrian access around the circle, and currently there is no pedestrian access across Memorial Avenue on the east side of the circle or to the center of the circle itself. Now, with that as background, I will review the proposed design. The applicant is proposing a 250-foot tall arch as shown here in this rendering. According to the applicant, the purpose of the arch is to celebrate the triumphs of the American spirit, inspire patriotism and love of country, and beautify our nation's capital. The proposed arch consists of an arch structure with two legs at a height of 166 feet to the top of the mezzanine. The observation deck and statuary plinth is 24 feet above that, and the larger central statue is 60 feet tall. The exterior of the proposed arch will be primarily clad in stone. The vertical faces of the arch include several recessed or frame spaces that would typically house statuary or relief sculpture, though no specific details on these spaces has been provided. The top area of the arch includes gold lettering quoting the American Pledge of Allegiance on both east and west facing sides. Above the primary arch structure and mezzanine is a recessed area housing the observation deck interior space, and above that, the proposed statuary. The proposed statues include the 60-foot tall central gold statue flanked by smaller gold eagles on each side. All the statuary is facing east toward the Lincoln Memorial. There are also additional gold decorative elements on the underside of the arch and on each vertical face. The proposed interior of the arch includes ticketing and security, back of house space, stairwells and elevators in the south leg, with an exit hall, back of house space, stairwells and elevators in the north leg at the ground level. The plans include a stair hall, restrooms, program spaces, and stair and elevator lobbies in the mezzanine. Two of these staircases and one of the elevators in the center of the mezzanine provide access to the observation deck above. Per the submission materials, the proposed arch sits within a plaza that includes granite pavers encircled by a seat wall and two pedestrian access points lined with bollards. These two access points face east and west, aligned with the opening of the arch. This enlarged detail of the proposed site plan shows the proposed apron, planting strip, stone barricade seat wall, granite pavers, and bollards proposed. The circle is shown with new pedestrian crosswalks and post-mounted pedestrian actuated signals connecting visitors via pedestrian refuge islands next to the traffic circle. Pictured here on the east side, two new crosswalks will start at the landing of the Memorial Bridge, crossing traffic onto a refuge island before crossing the circle drive lane into the Arch Plaza. The applicant has stated the pedestrian actuated signals pictured to the right will be used to control vehicular traffic and allow pedestrians to use the various crosswalks. And now I will review the vehicular and pedestrian accessibility topic and our recommendations. As previously stated, the National Park Service updated the design for Memorial Circle both in 2007 and 2020 to address efficiency and safety. Currently, there is no pedestrian access via crosswalks to the circle or across Memorial Avenue on the east side of the circle. The circle also sees heavy volumes of traffic, especially on the east side, from northbound Washington Boulevard to eastbound Memorial Bridge, and from the bridge to northbound Arlington Boulevard. Both of these movements have continuous lanes around the east side of the circle. The applicant is showing a change to the current design of the vehicular and pedestrian access to and around Memorial Circle as noted here. As the arch is intended to be a visitor destination, and Memorial Circle is an integral part of the vehicular access between the Arlington Memorial Bridge and the George Washington Memorial Parkway with significant traffic volume, it will be important to ensure the continued safe operation of the traffic network, as well as the safe passage of visitors. The applicant has indicated that they are working with several agencies to evaluate the transportation network to accommodate visitor access and minimize impacts to the road network. Therefore, staff suggests the Commission recommend the applicant work with the Federal Highway Administration, District Department of Transportation, Arlington County, and other agencies as appropriate regarding any proposed changes or impacts to the surface transportation network. The plans do not provide details regarding visitor parking, loading, unloading, and ADA access. As the project introduces a visitor attraction to Memorial Circle, additional information is necessary to ensure the safety of those accessing the site and minimizing impact to vehicular travel around the site. As such, staff recommends the commission requests the applicant submit for the next review a transportation or traffic study that identifies any potential impacts of the proposed project on the road network and level of service, and evaluates proposed pedestrian access to ensure visitors can avoid pedestrian and vehicular conflicts, and information regarding parking and loading and unloading for visitors to the arch to ensure safe access for those of all abilities and minimize disruption to the traffic network. Next, I will review visitor safety and recommendations. The proposed arch is shown with an at-grade plaza surrounded by a seat wall with openings with bollards for pedestrian access aligned with the openings of the arch. The submission includes some security elements, including the seat wall, bollards, and security in the ticketing space. The seat wall as a security element is consistent with integrated design elements that NCPC policies support. The seat wall as a security element. Additional information regarding the overall risk and security approach will be helpful as part of the next review. Therefore, staff recommends the commission support the use of the seat wall as a design security element around the arch plaza and requests a risk assessment and evaluation of the project to ensure the proposed design will address security considerations. Next, I will review aviation safety and recommendations. The location along the Potomac River is 3,000 feet from Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, near landing approaches for 2 runways. Part 77 of the Code of Federal Regulations outlines requirements for any construction that is more than 200 feet above ground level to file notice with the FAA. The purpose is to determine whether the proposed construction would be a hazard to air navigation. The applicant has indicated they are currently working with the FAA to evaluate whether the proposed project would impact air navigation given its proximity to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Any recommendations that are identified by the FAA review process should be incorporated into the design prior to the Commission's final action. Therefore, staff suggests the Commission recommend the applicant continue consultation with the FAA to evaluate potential impacts of the proposed project on air navigation and provide an update to the Commission as part of the next review, and advises that any design recommendations provided by the FAA should be incorporated into the proposed project prior to the Commission's final action. The next section will cover view sheds and related recommendations. The proposed location of the arch is at the center of Memorial Avenue, and the sightline, design, and landscape features of Memorial Avenue, which includes the Memorial Circle, are contributing elements of the National Register listed Arlington National Cemetery Historic District and Arlington Memorial Bridge. The panoramic views from Arlington House at Arlington National Cemetery to the west and the Lincoln Memorial to the east have been in place since the 1920s and reflect the visual connectivity characteristic of the McMillan Plan. This alignment from the Lincoln Memorial to Arlington House was originally designed as a memorial symbolizing reunification of the North and South after the Civil War. The bridge and Memorial Avenue serve as the ceremonial entrance to Arlington National Cemetery, the nation's most hallowed ground and the final resting place for more than 400,000 service members, veterans, and family members. The applicant has included several before and after views of the proposed arch in the submission. This first view on the left shows the current view of the Arlington House along the axis of Memorial Avenue toward the Lincoln Memorial and beyond. The view on the right shows the proposed arch and Memorial Circle. As noted, the rendering from the submission indicates that the proposed arch will block the view of the Lincoln Memorial from Arlington House. This is the existing view on the left from the Lincoln Memorial Circle looking west towards Arlington House. This is the rendered view on the right of the proposed arch and Memorial Circle. This proposed view alters the view of Arlington House and Arlington National Cemetery from the Lincoln Memorial. This is the existing view from Parkway Drive Northwest along the edge of the Potomac River looking southwest towards Arlington Cemetery on the left. On the right, this is the rendered view of the same location with the proposed arch. On the left is an existing view from the Lincoln Memorial Terrace looking west, and on the right is the rendered view with the proposed arch. Given the importance of these views, staff suggests the Commission encourage the applicant to provide, as part of the Section 106 process of the National Historic Preservation Act, any design options that were explored to avoid or minimize impacts on the visual connection between Arlington House and the Lincoln Memorial. In addition, staff suggests the Commission request the applicant provide, as part of the next review, updated photo visualizations of existing and proposed pedestrian level views from additional locations noted here. A view from the north steps of the Jefferson Memorial looking toward the Lincoln Memorial, views from the George Washington Memorial Parkway, one looking south toward the circle from a point immediately south of I-66, and one looking north toward the circle from a point near the LBJ Memorial Grove. This section, I will review recommendations on design development. Consistent with comprehensive plan policy, the Commission has historically focused on preserving Washington's picturesque horizontal character and reinforcing the Height of Buildings Act. The Height of Buildings Act of 1910, amended in 2014, is a federal law that limits building height, and NCPC has always applied the Height of Buildings Act to federal projects. The project appears to include a combination of habitable space and architectural embellishments at a height of 250 feet. As such, further information will be necessary to understand how the project comports with the Height of Buildings Act. As such, staff suggests the Commission request the applicant provide, as part of the next submission, an analysis and justification for the project's height in light of the Height of Buildings Act. The submission does not yet include information on any proposed lighting, stormwater management approach, and most of the site and building materials. These are necessary elements for the Commission to review as the design advances. Therefore, staff suggests the Commission recommend the applicant work with the District Department of Energy and Environment regarding the proposed stormwater management approach, and requests the applicant provide, as part of the next submission, information regarding the following topics: the proposed arch and site materials palette, including cladding, paving, pedestrian features, and security elements; the proposed lighting strategy, including nighttime renderings from key views demonstrating the lighting concepts in context; and the proposed stormwater management strategy. Finally, our recommendations for the applicant to consider in terms of project coordination that were not previously mentioned. NCPC has an independent responsibility to comply with the National Historic Preservation Act and the National Environmental Policy Act. NCPC intends to designate the applicant as the lead federal agency for the purposes of compliance. NCPC will not take a final action until both these processes have been completed. As such, staff requests the Commission recommend the applicant work with the District of Columbia State Historic Preservation Office and other consulting parties regarding the National Historic Preservation Act Section 106 process, and recommends the Commission request that the applicant provide, as part of the next submission, updates on the Section 106 process and the NEPA evaluation process, as completion of both are required for NCPC final action. This concludes the presentation. As noted previously, at this concept review stage, the Commission provides comments and requests additional information from the applicant that will inform subsequent Commission review. I've incorporated these recommendations into the presentation, so I will not read them again, but they are included here for your reference. In conclusion, staff recommends the Commission approve the following concept comments on the proposed monumental arch located in Memorial Circle on Columbia Island in Washington, D.C. Finally, I do want to acknowledge that NCPC has received a substantial number of public comments on the project. The vast majority of the comments received were in opposition, and the most common concerns related to the impact to the setting of Arlington National Cemetery, views, height, and scale, and safety. The applicant team and the architect are here to answer any questions the Commission may have, and staff is available as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Do any commissioners have any questions either for Jamie or for the project team? Yeah, Commissioner.
I do want to ask, so has this it's gone through CFA, it's now coming through NCPC. most projects like this that I think of as memorials or commemoration go through NICMAC, the Memorial Advisory Committee. Has this gone through that process? Is this considered a memorial? What is this? What process is it going through other than us in CFA?
So the question on the Commemorative Works Act is one that NCPC has historically deferred to the applicant agency on complying with. And in this instance, they have advised that the Commemorative Works Act does not apply. And so therefore, we're deferring to their determination that the Commemorative Works Act doesn't apply here.
Okay, that leads me a bit to a follow-up question. So in the staff report, I noted that it said the purpose of the art, according to the applicant, the purpose of the arch is to celebrate the triumphs of the American people, inspire patriotism and love of our country, and beautify our nation's capital. Is that in some kind of congressional finding, some kind of finding by a commission set up to set up this non-memorial? Like, where's that finding come from, or is it just what the applicant put onto the application?
It's just what we've been informed by the applicant.
So this isn't any kind of, this is just the applicant saying this is patriotic, and it's not like this didn't go through Congress or anything like that.
It did not.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think this is for the project team. Wanted to know what the timeline was for initiating Section 106.
Yep.
We don't have a timeline set just yet. We're going through the processes, and it'll be when we receive approval that we'll be looking at the project.
I'm sorry, it's when you receive approval.
Here.
I don't think your mic is working.
Oh, sorry.
You said, could you repeat your response?
Yeah, we're going to be going through the.
I'm not a tech guy. I apologize.
Maybe that's.
I'll speak loudly. My name is Brad Sharp with the Department of the Interior. The Section 106 initiation consultation package will be given out to consultative parties tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any other questions for? Yeah, Stuart.
I have one. So what kind of data are generated in the traffic study? Because one thing I noticed is that cars don't necessarily use that circle to the same extent as you go all the way around. So if you're trying to figure out how to route pedestrians, what types of data are generated and how would you use it in order to figure out access to the monument?
Yeah, and I'll speak loudly so I can make sure if you guys don't hear me back here, just lift up your hand. So we've been working with the Department of Transportation Volpe Center, which is the leading governmental agency. Okay, thank you. It is. We're working with the Department of Transportation Volpe Center, which is the leading governmental agency as relates to traffic studies. So from the studies that have been conducted in coordination with the Federal Highway Administration, the south side of the circle experiences the least amount of traffic. There are several movements on the circle that do experience the most amount of traffic, particularly during peak hours. That is when you're going northbound from Washington Boulevard over the bridge, and then subsequently later in the day, you get the westbound traffic over Arlington Memorial Bridge, and then northbound then onto Arlington Boulevard. So that is one of the things that we'll be addressing subsequently is those traffic movements and making sure that has the least amount of impact in coordination with the signalization. So right now, coming north on Arlington Boulevard, it's the rapid beacon. So if you get a lot of pedestrians, it's not actuated right now, but it's constantly beeping. Thank you.
Is it on?
Hello.
No difference.
Okay. I'll keep my speak loudly. So right now it's rapid beacon signalization. So if you don't actuate it, it automatically detects pedestrian movement, which then results in the flashes going up and the traffic then comes to a stop. What we're contemplating for both the construction phase as well as for the ultimate completion of the arch, that will be pedestrian actuated. So if one of the main considerations, so if you don't want traffic building up, there'll be a minimum run green time. So if there's multiple lines of people coming up, you just can't keep on pressing signalization and have traffic come to a stop. So it'd be a minimum run green time, traditionally that's 80 seconds. But after 80 seconds of run green time, if the pedestrian comes up and pushes it, then the traditional walk stop, the walk time would come up and then the pedestrian would be able to cross.
Can I ask a total, do you have a follow-up, Stuart? what's the arch made out of? Like, what's the building material?
The chart. So the structure will be cast in place concrete
Okay,
for the majority of the structure, and then the cladding will be granite. We haven't selected the exact type of granite yet, but those under consideration are Sierra White, Mount Erie, which is the composition mostly of the bridge, and then also Bethel White, which would be Union Station and Natural History Museum. So some precedent for using those materials.
and then the gold ornamentation, I'm guessing that's something plated with gold?
Yeah, so it'll be a silicon bronze.
Mhm.
And then we'll have to I think go much like the statues on the other end of the bridge, the House of War and Arts.
Is there a concern with sort of tarnishing of the gold over time, or what does that look like as 20 years from now? How different is it going to look than it does?
So the Arts of War were they were recently renovated in, I think, the 1970s. So they're coming up and they're being renovated now. So the restoration is required on gold plating over probably about a course of 30 to 40, 50 years.
Okay, so that's a pretty long runtime as these things go. The FAA study, what's the status of your guys' consultations with FAA?
That's ongoing.
Okay.
So FAA has already compiled a preliminary finding for the arch at 250 feet. Those studies will be incorporated into the environmental assessment as an appendix for you all to see.
Great. And then I guess last question, and this may be for the architect, for Mr. Charbonneau. Was any thought given to making the arch taller and the statuary shorter? Or I guess how did you all arrive at the proportions? I know I like the goal of reaching 250 feet total, but sort of how did that kind of come together?
There's some historic precedent for monumental architecture on Columbia Island. So part of the proposal by the community white for the bridge,
Right,
included columns with center on top of them. The height of those columns were 166 feet. So we're referencing the history of the site.
gotcha.
Having the arch proposed at the same height. So to answer your question, now we looked at this.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Dixon.
Yeah, I have two or maybe three questions. First, has there any maintenance issues in terms of long-term maintenance been dealt with or looked at? Secondly, the ballots could be maybe replaced with some more useful, like chairing that also offers a similar protection, but give tourists a place to relax rather than or be useful, the useful devices. The other thing I was kind of curious about how this arch compares with other arches that are around the globe. Are we unique enough, or what it might compare, how it can compare? Those three questions, Mr. Chairman.
So the first one, in terms of maintenance, that's why we selected granite for the exterior cladding. Granite has a compressive strength reaching 3,500 psi and a very low water absorption rate. So that the exterior materials are selected for the longevity, including the silicon bronze. The other question regarding a place for the pedestrians and visitors to sit, there is a seat that goes around the entire perimeter on both legs of the arch, and then we have a seat wall which is on the perimeter of the circle as well. So there'll be ample places for pedestrians to have a rest to sit.
But is there still a need for the ballots if those devices are there?
Yeah, the ballots. It just didn't seem appropriate to have a seat wall going around the entirety of the circle, and that if there was ever to be a procession, that the east and the west sides of the seat wall be open. And I'm sorry.
And then the last question was comparing the size of this arch to other sort of other examples around the world.
The size, the Arc de Triomphe is probably the closest in terms of size and composition. It lacks any kind of ornamental columns on it, and that was specifically chosen because this arch was to feature narrative sculpture on the outside, so that the columns interrupted the space for that. That's why we selected it without any columns on it. But historically, triumphal arches would have
ornamental palms on the outside.
And I would note that this arch is less than half the height of the Gateway Arch in my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. Just for the record.
It's not even comparable. It sits by the river.
Are there any other questions for either Jamie or the project team? Paul, Commissioner Ingracia?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question about the inside of the arch. If you could, we have these great visuals, how it will look in the exterior, but maybe you could talk a little bit more about, how large you expect the inside to be, how visitors might navigate up to the top, to the observatory deck. Someone who's been to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, could be a little tricky navigating to the top. So maybe you could talk a little bit about accessibility and how visitors plan to enjoy their time there.
Bands up again? No, we can. I mean, I could talk through it, but it's a little bit easier having visual. So the arch is entered on one side. So the idea is that visitors will circulate up one leg, and then they could go to the observation deck and then circulate back down on the other leg. So it's kind of a circuitous movement through, and that will address security concerns because we want to be able to screen visitors actually as they enter. If you want to pass.
Yep. Okay.
There we go.
You need a mic.
So on the south side, we have the ticketing and security. So this will be the main entrance as folks enter into the arch. They'll have the opportunity of either taking this elevator or this one, or they could also take a stair all the way up if they'd like to. Once you're up, now you've got to cross over to the center. And so that happens on an upper level. So this is really just below the observation deck, this floor plan here. So you come in, you've got a space here, which you would enter into, and then there's a stair hall. So there's two stairs on either side and then an elevator in the center, which would go up within the center of the statue base on the upper floor on the observation deck. So these stairs will lead out into a stair hall as well as the elevator, and then the observation deck can be accessed either on the east or the west, the doors leading out to either side. And then this area here in its entirety is open for visitors to be able to observe basically a 360-degree view of the surrounding area. Visitors, when they're leaving, would come down on this set of stairs and these elevators, and then they'd come out on the ground level on the north side and then to an exit hall and then come out. So just want to make sure that there's safety features in place for anybody coming in, and then the traffic flow can go through. The Park Service is estimated that they'd be able to accommodate probably about 80 occupants per hour. So similar to the Washington Monument. So that's that's the spaces, that they be the public spaces would be, have some level of ornamentation. There's also opportunities for exhibit spaces particularly on the upper level.
And have we seen renderings of like what the views will be like from the observation deck? Have those been submitted to us?
They were not submitted to us.
Those are not, but we now have them, and we can include them in the next submission package.
My guess is that it's a pretty stunning view, and I think that would be helpful as we consider this project going forward. Are there any other questions either for Jamie or yes, Commissioner?
So a couple of things. So actually, Commissioner Dixon's question about how this compares to other arches just kind of got me back to some research I was doing earlier, and my earlier question about what does this commemorate? And I was looking up. So, for example, the Arc de Triomphe commemorates Napoleon's military victories. The India Gate recognizes fallen soldiers. The Monumental de la Revolución is the Mexican Revolution, and Washington Square Arch is Washington's centennial, inauguration centennial. Again, we're kind of left without anything. But I did want to take just a point of privilege for DC laws, because you did mention this during your opening, the Height of Buildings Act. And I just wanted to ask through the chair to the General Counsel. So the Height of Buildings Act, the chair mentioned this is essentially a local law, but could you clarify whether the DC Council or any of the local authorities have any ability to change that law, or if it's purely congressional and that the council is prohibited from having any kind of review over that?
Sure. So it is a federal law. The council does not have any authority to amend the Height of Buildings Act. And it is one that I believe Jamie said in the presentation was amended as recently as 2014. And as the chair noted, NCPC has historically taken the position that the Height of Buildings Act does apply to federal projects. I'm happy to share some of that background, but also happy to supplement that for the next filing as well.
Sure. And the chair also mentioned enforcement of the Height of Buildings Act would be by the local authorities or the local courts. Could you clarify whether the local courts are appointed by the president or the council or have any local ties or jurisdiction?
By the president.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Anything further? With that, we'll proceed to the public testimony that we have on this item. Thank you, Jamie, by the way. That was comprehensive and informative as always. We have 30 people signed up to speak on this matter, a combination of in-person and virtual. We're going to hear from witnesses in groups of 5, reserving any questions that the commission has for members of the public until after we make it through those 5 witnesses, just to keep things rolling. Our first witnesses, as is our custom here, individuals speaking on behalf of themselves will be given 3 minutes. Individuals speaking on behalf of an organization will be given 5. To keep things moving, we will enforce those restrictions pretty rigorously. Our first 5 witnesses are, I'm going to butcher some of these pronunciations, and I apologize in advance for that, are Edward Searley, Priya Jain, William Vaughn, Susan Douglas, and Gary Langston. Mr. Steerley, who I believe is here in person, is representing the National Parks Conservation Association. Sir, if you want to take the podium, you have 5 minutes, and please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Ed Sturley. I'm the Mid-Atlantic Senior Regional Director for the National Parks Conservation Association. NPCA, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We have 1.9 million members and supporters around the country, and we've advocated on behalf of the national parks in the National Capital Region for decades. We submitted detailed written comments, but I'm going to pretty much hit the high notes and underscore what I think you should all hear before you advance this proposal. And just to be clear about something up front, I mean, NPCA, we strongly support commemorating America's 250th anniversary of this country. We support investments that honor American history and that strengthen our national parks, but that is not what is before you today. What's before you today is a request to approve a 250-foot monumental structure on National Park Service land in what is the most significant commemorative landscape in the United States. And doing this without Commemorative Works Act process that Congress requires, without a completed environmental impact statement, without a Section 106 consultation under the National Historic Preservation Act. And so this commission, as you advance this, you have the authority and the responsibility to say that that is not acceptable. And we urge you to exercise that as you advance this. So let me focus on 3 things. So first is the law that was mentioned earlier, the Commemorative Works Act, which is not a suggestion. It was enacted by Congress in 1986. Because prior to that, the ad hoc monument placement that was happening created the exact kind of conflict with what we're seeing right now before this commission. The Area 1 requirements under that law require preeminent significance determination, consultation with the National Capital Memorial Advisory Commission, and congressional action. And to our knowledge, none of those steps have been completed. The administration's argument thus far has rested on a 1920s bridge authorization for columns that were never built. But that authorization was directed to a now dissolved commission to undertake a long completed project, subject to a spending limit that's also been exhausted. So to treat that statute as the authorizing a massive and costly new project a century later really defies any reasonable reading of congressional intent. If a single authorization for one commemorative structure conferred perpetual authority to build limitless future monuments within the same vicinity, the monumental core of Washington would be chaos. This commission should require a legally supported demonstration that Area 1 process has been completed before taking any action to advance this proposal, because that's what the law requires. Second, I want to talk about the physical reality of what this arch would do. 30 funeral services are conducted at Arlington National Cemetery every single day. 400,000 veterans and their families are interred there. The landscape between the Lincoln Memorial and Arlington were deliberately designed to honor that relationship, as was discussed earlier. The Arlington Memorial Bridge was built low with classical restraint, precisely so the view between the memorial and the cemetery would remain unbroken. That was not an accident. It was a civic act of design that took decades of planning. A 250-foot arch at Memorial Circle, topped with the gilded statues and an observation deck, would be placed at the exact point where visitors transition from the Lincoln Memorial to the cemetery. Visitors approaching Arlington from Washington would no longer experience that measured, solemn procession across the bridge. They would instead pass through a structure that's at fundamental odds with the character of the ground beneath it. You'll likely hear from a lot of veterans saying that this would dishonor their service, and their concerns deserve real weight here today. Third, the view shed. The western axis of the National Mall represents more than 120 years of very deliberate planning and legal protection, much of which has occurred through this commission, if not all of it. The Macmillan Plan of 1902 established a compositional logic that every generation has built upon since. Long uninterrupted view sheds, which we enjoyed, wonderful photos of. I know through the progression throughout history, I was more astounded at how little it has changed over time and how remarkable that would be for any city in the world. The Washington Monument was designed as a singular vertical, punctuation of this entire composition, and nothing of comparable scale has ever been introduced into the mall in this corridor, except this arch now. That impact would be irreversible. So, I've heard it said, I'm still comparably to many. I've only lived in this area for about a dozen years, and Washington is not a static city. There's been a lot of change. That's true. Washington has grown thoughtfully, deliberately, and through a lawful process that's protected its most significant commemorative landscape while making room for new expression. That's the framework that Congress built for this city. And unfortunately, that's what is at risk of being bypassed here. So, we urge the National Capital Planning Commission, you all, to decline to advance this project until Congress has authorized this memorial through a joint resolution, because they deserve the protection and you have an obligation to provide it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Next up, we have Priya Jain, who's representing the Society of Architectural Historians, and who will similarly have 5 minutes to provide your testimony. I believe Ms. Jain is with us virtually. You can proceed whenever you're ready.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak. My name is Priya Jain, and I'm a licensed architect in the state of Texas. I offer these comments as a private citizen and as chair of the Heritage Conservation Committee of the Society of Architectural Historians. These views do not represent those of my employer, Texas A&M University. The Society of Architectural Historians is a nonprofit founded in 1940 and is the leading organization for architectural history in North America. The proposal before you to build a new 250-foot monumental arch is in one of the country's most significant historical and urban ensembles. After reviewing the submission made by the Department of the Interior, we feel that it negatively impacts the architectural context of its setting, disrupts views to existing historic monuments, and runs counter to decades of design and preservation guidance for this area prepared by none other than the applicant itself. We want to begin by countering the claim that the architectural history of the site supports construction of tall triumphal arches, or that the proposal respects the legacy of the 1901 Macmillan Plan for Washington, D.C. At the last Commission of Fine Arts meeting, the Department of the Interior presented various images of historic, unbuilt bridges and monuments from 1877 to 1934, leading the commissioners to note that the site has a history of heroic designs and this proposal builds on the Macmillan Plan. In fact, the architectural history of this area reveals the exact opposite. Many of the unbuilt proposals that were presented predate the 1901 Macmillan Plan. and the subsequent siting and construction of Lincoln Memorial completed in 1922. In fact, many of the early 19th century unbuilt designs were not even in the same location as the present Arlington Memorial Bridge, which was designed in 1923 specifically to be a low-profile structure to not disrupt the sightlines between Arlington House and Lincoln Memorial. Where the current Memorial Circle now sits, the Macmillan Plan and its subsequent development in the 1920s and 30s showed an elliptical plaza with two 166-foot tall columns that are now being used as some sort of justification for the Monumental Arch. But historic renderings and descriptions show clearly how materially different they are. The proposed 1920s slender columns were situated not in the center, but one on either side of the bridge. The Washington Post in 1928 noted, and I quote, "Two stately columns would be framing in, but not interfering with the view of the Lincoln Memorial from the direction of Lee Mansion," end quote. Simply put, they were completely different in design, size, height, proportion, and location to the current arch. For the past century, all federal planning and design studies have only reinforced the importance of maintaining low profiles and avoiding any tall or permanent structures in this area. NCPC's own Memorials and Museums Master Plan from 2001 noted, and I quote, that the existing circle at the west end of Memorial Bridge is not seen as an appropriate location of a future memorial, end quote. The most recent 2024 Cultural Landscape Report for Memorial Avenue Corridor, commissioned by the Department of the Interior and meant to serve as a guide for future planning, calls to preserve the corridor's access, viewshed connections, and significant vistas that were foundational to its design and ongoing function. It goes on to note that within Memorial Circle, protection of views is key. Even though the applicant did not make substantive changes to the proposed arch as requested by the CFA in their April review, like removing the statues on top to reduce height or introducing open archways to facilitate views, the CFA voted to fast-track the project by granting their final approval in May. We urge the NCPC not to replicate this pattern. Instead, we implore you to take seriously the comments included here and in the NCPC's own executive director's recommendation, and insist that the applicant provides the requested information, addresses concerns, and complies with applicable laws and regulations before advancing this design to preliminary and final approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jain. Next up, we have Mr. William Vaughn, who I believe is here with us in person.
Mr. Vaughn wasn't able to make it, so we can move on to Susan Douglas.
Mr. Vaughn is not here, so we will move on, as suggested by our general counsel, to Susan Douglas. Ms. Douglas, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony. Please proceed when you're ready.
Chairman Scharf and commissioners, I am horrified by how quickly the Arch project is moving through the approval process in spite of strong public opposition and compelling reasons for halting this plan. My concerns about the Arch are as follows. There's a law that bars all construction on federal parkland in the nation's capital without the express authority of Congress. The administration said it would not seek congressional approval and will instead rely on an authorization from 1925 related to a project never built, using a 100-year-old loophole to avoid congressional approval is specious. The Arch is a vanity project for Trump, ostensibly meant to honor America's 250th anniversary. Trump admitted at a dinner last year that the Arch was being built for him. Video of those comments is widely available online. Presidents should not build their own memorials. Rather, leave that for others after their legacy has been established. Building the Arch on Memorial Circle is a desecration of the sacred space where 400,000 soldiers and family members are buried. The grotesque size of the arch would block the historic sightline between the Lee Mansion at Arlington National Cemetery and the Lincoln Memorial. This view was intended to symbolize North-South reunification after the Civil War. At 250 feet, the arch will dwarf everything in its midst and ruin the vista for the 70,000 some drivers who cross DC's grand entrance each day. Construction of this arch will create a traffic nightmare in an already busy corridor. The FAA has launched a study of the possible flight safety risks given the arch's proximity to Washington National Airport and its complex flight patterns. This is standard procedure and could take up to 9 months. Memorial Circle is already under permit for testing and boring in preparation for construction work because the soil in this area is predominantly dredged alluvial soil and is considered a poor choice for a massive stone monument. Extensive and expensive foundational supports will be required to support the arch. Congressman Don Beyer is so concerned about the project that he recently co-sponsored a bill to block the arch, stating the project is tasteless and disrespects those buried at the cemetery, including his family members. Public Citizen has filed a lawsuit on behalf of several Vietnam veterans and an architectural historian to block the construction of the arch. Any discussion of the arch is premature at best, pending resolution of all these studies and lawsuits. That aside, this arch must be stopped. Democracies do not construct memorials to living presidents. Disrupting the historically significant view is an affront to our history, to the men and women at Arlington National Cemetery who gave their lives in service to our country, and to those who remember them. It is arch insanity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Douglas. Next up, we have Gary Langston. Mr. Langston, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony. Please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm a veteran. I'm a resident of Washington, D.C. My parents are interred in Section 66 of Arlington Cemetery. My dad was himself a Vietnam veteran, 2 tours there, flying helicopters. My mom was kind of a traditional Army wife, also a nurse who served in Army hospitals at times. My personal wife is a veteran of the Persian Gulf War, and we have several ancestors who served in the military going back in history. These are my personal comments. Any memorial, and we're mixing the terms memorial and monument in this discussion, and I think that's an important distinction, must respect those interred there, their descendants, current and the future generations. I think, what does this arch look like in another 250 years? The linkage of the memorial, it's more than Arlington House and the Lincoln. It's the avenue, it's the hemicycle, the women's memorial behind it, Kennedy's gravesite, the eternal flame, all of that. The vistas are wonderful from there. You don't need another structure to provide those vistas around Washington. So that said, what's required here is a solemn memorial, if anything, rather than a monument. Now, the way to do that, of course, is, in my opinion, is to follow the law, gather input from appropriate stakeholders. That includes those where the view shed is impacted from grave sites, not just those that are existing today, but those that will exist in the future. All that said, I've got 6 specific comments on the content, some of which that you've partially addressed in input. The multiple views of the view shed, very important. I would add get views that simulate winter, get views that simulate night, and get views that simulate not just a view from the other major monuments, Jefferson, etc., but from other locations within the cemetery and elsewhere. The second thing about view shed that I would emphasize is the night views of the skyline of Washington and the memorials it's breathtaking. Today, and in my statement, there are a couple of photos. The lighting is subdued. The Air Force Memorial, Arlington House, the flagpole over Fort Myer, and the Iwo Jima Memorial. Anything there needs to be a lighting plan, and it needs to respect that that viewscape. Lastly, I think the most important piece of this is whatever is done there should be a unifying factor for the country. And at present, there are elements of the design of the arch that I fear won't stand the test of time. And I've included those as well.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
So, and if I may, I offer to anyone, I'm glad to hear that folks have walked Memorial Avenue and the Circle, but walk with veterans inside the cemetery. You'll learn a lot.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for your and your family's service to our country, sir. We're going to move on now to our next group of 5 witnesses, who are Laura Downey, Danilo Feliciano, Carol Quillen, Susan Madden, and Brian Green. Laura Downey, who I believe is with us virtually. Ms. Downey, can you hear us?
It seems Ms. Downey has not joined the meeting, so we can move on to Mr. Feliciano.
Mr. Feliciano, who I believe joined us at our last meeting as well. Good to have you, sir. You'll have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to all the members of the One Nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On this arch, the word indivisible is missing. February 7th, 2025, the current president established the White House Faith Office. April 21st, 2026, the current president released a video for America Reads the Bible event where he reads 2 Chronicles 7:11-22, where the Lord God says, "Seek my face." One nation under God. Exodus 34:17, thou shalt not make to thyself any molten gods. One nation under God. Deuteronomy 4:15, keep therefore your souls carefully. You saw not any similitude in the day that the Lord God spoke to you in Horeb in the midst of the fire. One nation under God. Ezekiel 14:6, therefore say to the house of Israel, thus saith the Lord God, be converted and depart from your idols, and turn your faces away from all your abominations. One nation under God. Jeremiah 51:17, every man is become foolish by his knowledge, every founder is confounded by his idol, for what he hath cast is a lie, and there is no breath in them. One nation under God. Habakkuk 2:18, what doth the gravest thing avail? Because the maker thereof hath graven it, a molten and a false image, because the forger thereof hath trusted in a thing of his own forging to make dumb idols. One nation under God. Psalm 113:12-16, this is in the Vulgate, by the way. The idols of the Gentiles are silver and gold, the works of the hands of men. They have mouths and speak not. They have eyes and see not. They have ears and hear not. They have noses and smell not. They have hands and feel not. They have feet and walk not. Neither shall they cry out through their throat. Let them that make them become like unto them, and all such as that trust in them. One nation under God. Isaiah 42:17-23. They are turned back. Let them be greatly confounded that trust in a graven thing, that say to a molten thing, you are our God. Hear ye deaf and ye blind, and behold that you may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf but he to whom I have sent my messengers? Who is blind but he that is sold? Or who is blind but the servant of the Lord? Thou mayst see as many things, wilt thou not observe them? Thou hast ears open, wilt thou not hear? And the Lord was willing to sanctify him and to magnify the law and exalt it. But this is a people that is robbed and wasted. They are all the snare of young men, and they are hid in the houses of prisons. They are made a prey, and there is none to deliver them, a spoil, and there is none that saith, restore. Who is there among you that will give ear to this, that will attend and hearken for times to come? One nation under God. Romans 1:22-23. For professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and they changed the glory of the incorruptible God into the likeness of the image of a corruptible man, and of birds, and of four-footed beasts, and of creeping things. One nation under God. Acts 17:29. Being therefore the offspring of God, we must not suppose the divinity to be like unto gold or silver or stone, in the graving of art and device of man. So when our government has a golden statue crafted and places the words, one nation under God beneath it, I have to wonder, to what God are they attempting to place the United States of America underneath? With humility, I thank you for receiving this testimony. Respectfully, my name is Danilo Augusto Feliciano, and I am a veteran. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Feliciano, and thank you for your service to our country as well. Carol Quillen, who I believe is here with us, is going to be speaking on behalf of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Ms. Quillen, you have 5 minutes. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of the National Capital Planning Commission. My name is Carol Quillen, and I serve as President and CEO of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share these comments with you. This commission works on behalf of the American people. You play a critical role, questioning, reviewing, and helping embody both our founding ideals and our ongoing commitment to build a more perfect union. The value you bring was clear during this commission's review of the National World War I Memorial. Over a series of meetings, this commission helped modify the original submission to respect the iconic water basin that defined the site and improve pedestrian access. The result was a substantially improved design that created a more fitting memorial to our nation's heroic service members. Since our founding, we Americans have understood the symbolic power of Washington, D.C. Our capital is a planned city. In their design, context, and relationship to each other, our most meaningful buildings and monuments communicate our system of government and the principles on which it is based. Achieving this has required deliberate planning, humility, and respect for what has gone before. Each generation has left its mark by proceeding in carefully calibrated steps that recognize our complex history and our aspirations. It's our responsibility to remember this 2-century-long tradition of design discipline, to strive to be worthy of this inheritance so that we may in turn pass it on. From this perspective, the arch poses significant risks. It flouts centuries of planning, it would diminish some of our nation's most powerful landmarks, and its hasty design, lack of consultation, and rush to construction undermine the ideal of government by and for the people. To highlight these risks, we respectfully offer specific comments on the project's proposed location, height, scale, and design. First, the proposed location. The center of Memorial Circle is not an appropriate place to construct a monument equivalent in height to a 20-story building. The colossal bulk of the proposed arch would block the hallowed vista from the Lincoln Memorial across Arlington Memorial Bridge to Arlington National Cemetery and Arlington House. One of the American people's most sacred landscapes, this visual link communicates the magnitude of the Civil War, the obligation its unimaginable cost imposes on all Americans, and the aspirations of a post-Civil War reconciliation in a new birth of freedom. Although there have been earlier proposals to place structures here, including one for 2 memorial columns, these were modest. The proposed columns would have framed the view of Arlington House and the Lincoln Memorial, not interrupted it. And after reflection, none of these earlier proposals were built. Second, with its height and scale, the proposed arch would overwhelm neighboring landmarks. It's double the size of the Lincoln Memorial. It's also inconsistent with the Height of Buildings Act that protects the plan of the city. Third, constructing this mammoth arch at the entrance to Arlington National Cemetery would brazenly disrespect the cemetery's solemn character. As the hallowed resting place of 400,000 veterans and their families, Arlington Cemetery is a powerful reminder of American military sacrifice, selfless service, and national unity. The triumphal arch would communicate a jarring indifference to the sacrifice of our veterans and mar the outward view for military families and visitors. Finally, the applicant has not yet initiated review of under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. This law clearly mandates that this review be completed prior to approval. Submitting these plans for collaborative review would signal respect for the rule of law. It would improve the project, and honestly, it would help protect the president's legacy. Our concerns are serious. We respectfully urge you to withhold your approval for this project until the legally required Section 106 process has been completed and so that it has the benefit of the careful scrutiny that our capital city, the American people, and the president deserve. The National Trust has decades of experience collaborating with the NCPC, and we remain ready to help. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Quillen. Thank you, Ms. Quillen. Next, we have Susan Madden, who I believe is joining us virtually. Ms. Madden, are you with us?
It seems Ms. Madden has not joined, so we can move on to Brian.
Brian Green. Mr. Green, are you with us?
I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Green. You have 3 minutes to provide your testimony. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Brian Green. I'm an architectural historian in Richmond, Virginia. The Commission of Fine Arts has already granted final approval for this proposal. This commission is reviewing it for the first time. I want to spend my 3 minutes explaining why that sequence is not a reason to defer to CFA's judgment, but to exercise your own. The CFA voted on May 21 to approve the proposed arch, despite receiving approximately 600 public letters, of which 99.5% were in opposition, and without requiring full schematic designs. An FAA aerial hazard review required for any structure exceeding 200 feet remains unresolved. A federal lawsuit filed by Vietnam War veterans under the Commemorative Works Act of 1986 is actively pending. This commission is being asked to provide concept approval within that same incomplete legal and regulatory framework. The CFA's vote does not discharge this commission's independent responsibility. The site is the problem that no design adjustment can solve. Memorial Circle occupies the midpoint of the commemorative axis of the Macmillan Commission design to carry the symbolic weight of national reunion. The line from the Lincoln Memorial, across Arlington Memorial Bridge, to Arlington House, above the National Cemetery. The circle's openness was not a vacancy awaiting a monument. It was the spatial release the axis required. The Women in Military Service for America Memorial inscribes that axis in physical form and achieves its presence without imposing scale, and holds the sequence open for the cemetery beyond. A 250-foot arch, more than twice the height of the Lincoln Memorial, would not enter that sequence. It would end it. Consider what 250 feet means. It is the equivalent of an 18 to 19-story commercial building, or a 25 to 27-story residential tower. At that height, this would be the tallest classical triumphal arch in the world, 86 feet taller than the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and 53 feet taller than the closest example, which has gone unmentioned today, the Arch of Triumph in Pyongyang, North Korea. These dimensions were not achieved by analyzing the site. They were chosen to correlate with America's 250th anniversary and to produce the largest triumphal arch ever built. And this commission is being asked to place it at the entrance to Arlington National Cemetery. The revised design, made at the president's request, retained the winged eagle and golden eagles while only removing the ground-level golden lions. The project architect described the arch as not primarily a monument dedicated to the dead, but to the living. Arlington Cemetery hosts hundreds of funeral services every month. It is, by any measure, dedicated primarily to the dead. This approach to it from the bridge has seen, for nearly a century, a deliberately restrained approach. A price tag of at least $100 million does not change that. The Commemorative Works Act requires congressional authorization, an environmental assessment, and a finding that the site is appropriate. None of these conditions has been met. The administration's claim that 1920s legislation connected to Arlington Memorial Bridge already provides the necessary authority is not a serious substitute for that process.
Time. Mr. Green, I'm sorry, your time's expired.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you joining us. Do any commissioners have any questions for these 5 witnesses? Hearing and seeing none, we'll proceed to our next 5 witnesses, who are Jimmy Shaughnessy, James Lardner, Ralph Nix, David Parker, and Teresa Lucas. Jimmy Shaughnessy, I believe, is with us in person. I may be butchering the pronunciation of your name. If I am, I apologize, sir. You have
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Dixon.
Yeah, I want to get Professor Green if he had another comment about particularly his historical review of other arches.
Okay. Mr. Green, do you want to address Commissioner Dixon's question?
Mute. There we go. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Wonderful. And I'm sorry, Mr. Dixon, I did not hear the question. I was transitioning over from the other room.
Yeah, I just wanted you to complete what you're saying more or less and share what some of your more views about the other arches globally.
Mr. Green, can you hear us? Did we lose him or?
Seems like he's dropped. Oh, he's back.
Professor, okay. Commissioner Dixon wanted you to finish your comments about the relationship between this arch and other historical arches. Is that correct, Commissioner Dixon?
That's correct. Thank you.
The point I was trying to make is that this would be the tallest in the world, and the closest one is the Triumphal Arch in Pyongyang, North Korea. And my assertion is that we didn't get to the height of this monument by studying the site to determine what would be best, what would be most appropriate, what would be most honorific, but simply matching the number 250, and which had the added benefit of being taller than the one in North Korea. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes. Was that also part of your testimony that you wanted to give and you got stopped?
Oh, no. I had one line left, which was to say thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Well, that's an important line. Thank you very much for your work, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
And also for your service with me on the NCPC as a commissioner. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. It was a privilege.
Professor, you're very welcome, and thank you for joining us and for clarifying that.
Thank you.
If there's nothing further for Mr. Green or the other witnesses we just heard from, we'll proceed on to the next group, and starting with Mr. Shaughnessy.
The pronunciation is correct.
Oh.
First one to do that.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Of course.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Jimmy Shaughnessy, and I'm here to voice my opposition to the planned construction of the Memorial Arch. I speak as a private citizen, a Marine Corps combat veteran, son of a veteran, grandson of generations of combat veterans spanning nearly 200 years. Buried in Section 60 are my great-grandfather and great-grandmother. He, a combat veteran, who led the charge on horseback against Pancho Villa and would go on to serve in both world wars. She, a combat nurse who tended to wounded young men during World War II. They didn't question whether they should serve, only how long they would be permitted to. As a young Marine, I was impressed by their example. Their commitment to service and country became values I carried through my enlistment and combat tour. A tour in which I lost friends before I could learn their full names. For what died the sons and daughters of America? Was it fame? Will your children line up to be fodder for the vain? Now, potentially, a gigantic arch will cast a shadow on my resting family, friends, and leathernecks, as vanity is rewarded with a momentous symbol of selfishness. A 250-foot arch is a profound disruption and insult at the entrance to sacred ground. The space at the gates of Arlington Cemetery exists as a threshold, a transitory passage between service and burial. To preserve this integrity, it must remain open and unobstructed. Service members and their families navigate many transitions throughout a military career and beyond. The transition out of the military is among the most dangerous periods a service member will face. That final transition from service to eternal rest is not theirs to manage, it is ours. It falls to us, living, to receive our wounded and our dead with the highest esteem and care. An arch is not what they need. Who is the arch for? Is it for me? The president has already answered that question, and yes, it's for him. This arch would obstruct the sightline of the Arlington Memorial Bridge, a symbol of unity and reconciliation connecting those divided by war and grief. Rather than honoring that unity, it deepens a wound that has not fully healed. Hasty construction is no path to a monument worthy of this nation. Previous memorials were shaped by extensive public input and rigorous agency review, ensuring that the final design reflected our shared values. This proposal has had neither. Others have already raised the serious safety hazards of placing a monument in a roundabout at a high traffic intersection, consistent with this administration's pattern of placing pedestrians in harm's way. Funding has been stripped from the Department of Veterans Affairs, the National Park Service, and Department of Interior, degrading the capacity of these very agencies that provide direct services to veterans and their families. If we are to truly support the men and women who serve in uniform, direct this money to those agencies. How will this project be funded? With our tax dollars? With redirected entrance fees from parks across the country? Anonymous donations flowing into undisclosed fund? We deserve an answer. No one needs this arch. It's inappropriate, unnecessary, insulting. It's a waste of our land, our time, and our money. If this president wants his own arch, he can sift through the rubble of the East Wing demolition piling up along the banks of the Potomac and build one himself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaughnessy, and thank you for your service to our country and for your family's service. Next up, we have James Lardner. Mr. Lardner, whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes, and please proceed.
Thank you. I want to say a word about one of Washington's great glories, the Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial in general, and the Lincoln Memorial after dark. I've lived here most of my adult life. The sight of the Lincoln Memorial in the nighttime, with the wondrous glow that it casts into the sky, is a spectacle that never fails to move me. Others, including veterans and family members, have pointed out that the proposed arch would alter the character of Arlington National Cemetery, that it would interrupt a sight line meant to forever symbolize the reunification of North and South after the Civil War, that its massive size and the winged figures on top evoke the celebratory architecture of dictatorships more than of democracies. Those are powerful considerations. Beyond them, this gigantic structure would block our view of the Lincoln Memorial day and night from most places on the Arlington side of the river, and with its decorative floodlighting and the FAA mandated clearance lighting, it would make the Lincoln Memorial in the nighttime a dimmer and less striking sight from almost every direction. By conferring your approval, you would diminish something precious in order to add something overblown, underplanned, and uncalled for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lardner. Next up, we have Ralph Nix, who I believe is also in person. Mr. Nix, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. I did serve in the United States Navy as a hospital corpsman. I've had experiences that a lot of people in this room have not had. I've seen our soldiers, airmen, sailors take their last breath. I've seen families break down outside the ICU rooms, mothers, fathers, grandparents, children, wives. A lot of these are buried in the cemetery. And, you know, for me, it's not about right or wrong. It's not about left or right. It's not about the height. It's not about whether Congress approved it or not. It's about the people that's in that cemetery. That cannot speak today because serving our country. And it's about morals. It's about respect and disrespect. And to me, this is a disrespect to those who have given their lives up for this country in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, and now Iran. So for me, it's, you know, Congress probably should approve this. Somebody needs to start respecting people who have given their lives to this country. You know, because I'm going to use my 3 minutes. I found the comment of the St. Louis Arch appalling. This is not St. Louis. This is Washington, D.C. And you're wanting to block some of my comrades who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Has anybody asked the families of these service members how they feel about this? This is a disgrace. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nix, and thank you for your service to our country. Next up, we have David Parker, who I believe is with us virtually. Mr. Parker, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and you can proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman Scharf and Commission members. I am David Parker, a practicing architect for 35 years and a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. As a preservationist, I appreciate your thoughtful deliberation of the current proposal. The location between Arlington Cemetery and the Lincoln Memorial at Memorial Bridge is a National Register listed site, which, as noted in your own executive director's project summary, quote, was designed to create a physical and symbolic connection between the North and South, close quote. The overriding significance of this physical relationship and the viewshed between these solemn landmarks cannot be diminished and should not be impeded or obscured. The height of the proposed arch exceeds Washington's Height of Buildings Act of 1910, which generally limits structures to a maximum of 130 feet, and its proximity to Reagan National Airport is of serious concern since the FAA must approve any structures higher than 200 feet within 2 miles of a major airport. Your report observes that the proposed arch is 3,000 feet from Reagan National Airport, substantially closer than 2 miles, and in the immediate flight path of 2 major runways there. The immense size of the proposed arch has been touted by the applicant as a requirement in order to be larger than any other triumphal arch in the world, as though physical scale and dominance is more essential than meaning or appropriateness of its scale to this very specific context and setting. The symbolism of the proposed arch itself is contradictory and incongruent to this in this place. Triumphal arches throughout history have been built to, quote, symbolize specific military victory and political power, or to honor victorious generals and emperors while acting as state propaganda, close quote. This historical association is inconsistent with the vague justifications currently being offered for this immense structure. The purpose of this arch, according to the applicant, is, quote, to celebrate the triumphs of the American people, close quote. But the overriding solemnity of this specific location is ignored by this generalized trope. The commemorative Works Act, signed into law by President Ronald Reagan on November 14, 1986, requires that the proposal not interfere with, encroach on, or an existing commemorative work, and to the maximum extent practicable, that it protects open space, existing public use, and cultural and natural resources. The pair of tall columns cited as precedent that were once suggested but never built here have been used as justification for the height and also for why the current proposal doesn't need congressional approval. Note the historic image behind me showing those columns compared to the present arch. Based upon historical drawings, those columns were only 14 feet in diameter and were 272 feet apart, as opposed to the present arch itself, which has a width of 170 feet and a depth of 90 feet. Clearly, the columns were never built, would not have affected views. However, the immense arch most definitely will. Besides your approval, pursuant to the Commemorative Works Act, the triumphal arch must be approved by Congress. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of this highly consequential proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Next up, we have Teresa Lucas, who I believe is also here with us virtually. She is representing the Walnut Street Historical Society, and therefore will have 5 minutes to provide testimony. Ms. Lucas, are you with us?
I don't believe Ms. Lucas has joined the meeting, so we can move on to questions.
With that, do any commissioners have questions for any of this previous group of witnesses, starting with Mr. Shaughnessy?
Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just actually wanted to go back to Mr. Parker because I thought his background image was actually very informative, because we've heard a lot of the talk of the former columns that were supposed to go there.
Columns.
Yeah, the columns, and I think that Mr. Parker's background image showed that. So I had a couple questions actually for Mr. Parker, if he's still online.
Mr. Parker, are you still with us? Or can we bring him back? Or I don't know how the system works exactly.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I think Commissioner Cash wants to see your diagram.
Yeah. So this is Perfect. So this is the first that I've seen this at least superimposed with the proposed arch. Could you talk a little bit more about the size and the scale? I think you said they were 14 feet in diameter, but could you talk a little bit about the size and scale of what was proposed there under this former permit compared to what we're looking at here?
Yes, I'd be happy to. The columns, and from the period, the historic drawings, they were 14 feet, 6 inches in diameter and 166 feet high. And they were beyond the Memorial Bridge, and they were 272 feet apart. And that really has not been recognized. The fact that they didn't block anything, either in their dimension or in their placement. And the other thing that I would note apropos of that is that if you compare them with the arch is 170 feet wide and 90 feet deep. Compare the mass of that with a column that is only 14 and a half feet wide.
So, and you said the columns were something more than 270 or something like that feet apart from each other. So I was up at Arlington House this morning and looking down the hill and looking at some of the graphics that we had in the slide deck. The archway seems to really blot out from up there the view of the Lincoln Memorial, but I'm getting the sense that from this picture, the two columns are far enough apart that if you were up at Arlington House, I'm guessing it would more likely kind of frame the Lincoln Memorial than block out the image. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely correct. And that's what they were intended to do, to frame the view. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Parker, I'm just curious, the 1924 commission report makes reference to, I think it's called the July 9th column in Paris, or the July column in Paris. I know that column has sort of an interior staircase. Do you know if that was a piece of the original design of these two columns, or were they just closed off architectural features, or like what were they supposed to be like as planned?
Yeah. The drawings that I've seen didn't show any internal staircases in them. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other questions for Mr. Parker? Hearing none. Thank you again, sir. And with that, we'll proceed to our next 5 witnesses, who are Paul Romano, Victoria Fox, Stephen Rhodes, Shady Magali, and David Weinberg. Mr. Romano, I believe, is here with us in person. Sir, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and please proceed whenever you're ready.
The microphone will work, right? Is it working?
It's loud and clear.
Okay. My name is Paul Anthony Romano III. I live in Springfield, Virginia, and I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was a medic in Vietnam. I flew medevac and air rescue. I've never protested for or against anything in my life. But now at 76, I'm stepping forward. I raised my right hand and swore to this document here in 1968, the Constitution of the United States, to protect it against all foreign and domestic enemies, and would bear allegiance, true faith and allegiance, to the same, that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the officers above me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Here today, I stand in strong opposition to the building of the arch at Memorial Circle. It is nothing more than an ego arch for the current occupant of the White House. It's a slap in the face to every veteran who is laid at rest, not only at Arlington, but every national cemetery around the world. In 1994, I had the great privilege and honor to attend a reunion for all the veterans who fought in Italy in World War II, my stepdad being one of them, who also received the Silver Star, 2 bronze medals for valor, and was a POW for a short period of time. I spent 16 days with the greatest generation of men and women who were called, and they stood the watch. Just like all the individuals that are laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, they all stood the watch. I have personal friends there. Guys I grew up with, went to high school with, junior high school here in Arlington. Guys like Andy Castelda, Sean Mashburn, Jerry Lockridge, John W. Kennedy, Roger Holyfield, and Butcher Hall. These young men that I grew up with, but would never have the chance to grow old with them. And someday I will be laid to rest as well at Arlington. Only Congress can approve the building of this arch. This administration has bypassed every legal process in any project they have wanted to do in Washington by adding the current occupant's name to the Kennedy Center, tearing down the east wing of the White House, which they said they wouldn't touch, to build the big, beautiful ballroom. And they were only going to use private donations. And a certain member of the Senate wants to pass a $1 billion legislation to add funds to the big, beautiful ballroom. It is time to put this madness to stop. When the legislation was introduced in Congress for the first time for World War II, the World War II memorial was 1987. Then similar legislation was brought forth in 89, 91, and 93. In 93, President Clinton signed Public Law 103-32, authorizing the American Battle Movement Monument Commission to establish a World War II memorial in the district. Not to bore you with a lot of other dates, but from 1987 until November 11th, 20,000 before groundbreaking started. It took 13 years to approve it, and then took another 4 years, and it was dedicated on May 29th, 2004. So from the time the first legislation to its dedication was 17 years, not a few months.
Mr. Romano, I'm sorry, but your time has expired, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's time to take a stand, ladies and gentlemen. Stand the watch and turn the arch down.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Romano, and thank you, as I've said to others, for your service to our country. Next up, I believe we have Victoria Fox, who's with us virtually.
I don't believe Victoria Fox or Stephen Rhodes, our next witness, are here, so I believe we can move on to Shady Magali.
I don't know whether Shady Magali is Mr. Magali, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Shadi Magali. I am an American architect and founder of ME Innovations, with more than 22 years of professional experience in architectural design across multiple countries. I want to begin by saying that I fully support the vision of creating a monumental arch to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, but not in its current form. It would be a missed opportunity to rely on copying historical European landmarks, especially the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, and then add a winged statue to achieve a height of 250 feet. We are a nation of innovators and leaders, capable of creating our own history and completing what our ancestors began. I believe this historic opportunity deserves a uniquely American solution that reflects our identity, culture, symbolism, innovation, and leadership. As an architect motivated by patriotism and professional commitment, I developed and submitted an alternative American design that responds directly to the Commission of Fine Arts' recent feedback and public concerns. The proposal preserves the historic sightlines and visual relationship among Lincoln Memorial, Arlington House, and Arlington National Cemetery through a more open architectural form that frames these landmarks rather than competing with them. It also improves visitor circulation and safety through dedicated drop-off area and short underground access to reduce conflict with traffic, while enhancing the public experience with museum spaces and panoramic rooftop observation terrace. Most importantly, the design creates a meaningful civic tradition. Every July 4th at noon, sunlight access through a calibrated oculus in the arch roof and illuminates a stone datum on the ground, inscribed with words from the Declaration of Independence. In that moment, architecture, history, science, and national memory come together in a shared public experience, a renewed reminder of the ideals on which this nation was founded, and what Lincoln later described as a new birth of freedom. This would become a global event, drawing the world's attention to this historic moment every year, one that honors our past, inspires our future, and gives the American people a civic tradition that belongs uniquely to them, and a source of pride for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Magali. I wanted to also thank you for, I know you sent a few hard copies of your proposal to us here at NCPC. I'll make sure that we deliver at least one of those to the project team. I reviewed it with a number of my fellow commissioners earlier today, and I appreciate the obvious attention that you paid to, or the attention that went into creating that proposal.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
yes, Commissioner Dixon.
Is there a chance we can share an image of that with us today? Can he share an image of that?
Mr. Magali, do you have the ability to bring up a digital image of your proposal right now, or maybe you could email us the deck that you sent us and we can circulate that to the commission?
We're not able to share during the meeting, but we, I believe, Mr. Magali, you shared the image with your testimony, and it is already online, so individual commissioners can view it there.
It'd be useful if the public could see it. It's a public forum. The public should be able to see it, I would think.
It's on the website. The public can see it on the website as well.
Megan's saying it's publicly accessible. Commissioner Dixon, is that sufficient, or?
I'm not happy with it, but that seems to be the direction. If I were making a presentation, I would have had an image behind me, around me. It sounds like it's very creative and be interesting for everybody to get to see it one time rather than be driven to a computer to have to look it up and see it. But
I have it, and I tried to put it as a background, but I see that it has more details that should be shown directly with you. And I can share any of this presentation or just an image of that design if you would like.
well, yeah, I think we can get it. I can get it. I know I can get it. But the public is looking at this, will not see it. And it's too bad, no matter how detailed it is, at least an image would have been good to show. But I'm not critical of you. Thank you for your testimony and your effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Magali, and thank you, Commissioner Dixon. David Weinberg, I believe, is next. And I believe Mr. Weinberg is with us in person. Mr. Weinberg, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the commission. My name is David Weinberg, and I am a resident of Washington, D.C. I am here today to strongly oppose the proposed 250-foot United States Triumphal Arch at Memorial Circle. This project is a radical, unprecedented mistake that threatens Washington's historic skyline, bypasses democratic oversight, and creates immediate public hazards. The most urgent issue is the sheer visual disruption, as many have stated already. At 250 feet tall, this arch will completely dwarf the 99-foot Lincoln Memorial. It destroys the sacred, quiet access connecting Arlington National Cemetery to the Lincoln Tribute, inserting a loud visual barrier into a landscape meant for solemn reflection. This ignores a core lesson from the historic Macmillan Plan. Over a century ago, planners intentionally rejected massive entrance columns on the Virginia side of the bridge, specifically to protect the quiet harmony of this very skyline. Compounding the design flaw is a deeply flawed process. The project deliberately avoids standard public input and historic preservation reviews. It faces active federal lawsuits from veterans and direct opposition from lawmakers because it circumvents the democratic oversight required of our public spaces. Finally, we cannot ignore the severe public practical hazards. Memorial Circle is a vital high-speed traffic roundabout for tens of thousands of daily commuters. Placing a major tourist attraction here without pedestrian safety studies will cause severe gridlock and put millions of visitors in direct physical danger. We must not trade a century of carefully cultivated civic harmony for short-term monumentalism. I urge the Commission to reject this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Do any commissioners have any questions for these 5 witnesses or the previous group of witnesses? Hearing none, thank you all very much. We'll move on at this point to our next set of witnesses, who are Holly Fletcher, Elizabeth Finn, Stephen Eubank, Robert Harris, and Lawrence McDonald. Ms. Fletcher, I believe, is here with us in person. Ma'am, you have 3 minutes. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Holly Berkeley Fletcher. I hold a PhD in American history, specializing in the Civil War. I strongly object to the building of the proposed arch because it is an affront to the history and meaning of the site. In 1864, General Montgomery Meigs made a deliberate decision to bury Union dead at the Arlington estate of his former friend and mentor, Robert E. Lee, whom he considered a traitor to the United States, and he was. Meigs wanted to send a message both to Lee personally and to the nation about the rebellion's high moral and human cost. Decades later, the Macmillan Commission approved a long overdue plan for Washington based on the original design of Charles Pierre L'Enfant, who notably is also buried at Arlington. The Lincoln Memorial was purposely placed in the direct sightline of Lee's home and the graves of the first Union soldiers buried there, with the memorial bridge connecting the two, as a symbol of union, reconciliation, and the high price of freedom. This site was never meant to be triumphal, but rather somber, reflective, and profound. Much like Lincoln's second inaugural and Gettysburg addresses, which are etched into the walls of his memorial. In light of other actions taken by this administration, I can't help but conclude the arch is part of an intentional revision of history in which the gravity of insurrection is minimized, the violence of white supremacy is sanitized, and the anniversary of our hard-won democracy becomes an occasion for cowardly avoidance of the painful lessons of the past. Our triumph as a nation isn't represented by an overcompensating imperial-looking arch. Our triumph is and ever will be embodied only by our commitment to becoming a more perfect union. The accurate, reverent remembrance of the tragedy of the Civil War and the racial oppression that caused it, as well as our more general allegiance to the truth, is vital to our republic's endurance. I am also a former CIA analyst working on Africa who was raised in Kenya under a dictatorial regime. This arch reminds me more of the bombastic, self-aggrandizing displays of the African strongmen I have observed than the expression of a mature, dignified democracy whose greatness has been proven over time through the fulfillment of and fidelity to its founding principles. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher, and thank you for your service in our intelligence community. Elizabeth Finn is next. Ms. Finn is representing the Third Act DMV. Ma'am, you'll have 5 minutes to provide your testimony, and please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Elizabeth Finn. You can call me Lisa, and I'm part of Third Act DMV. It's an elder group that's focused on democracy and climate. I live in Virginia, Alexandria. We're folks that skew older. We're in our third act, so to speak. We are made up of veterans, historians, teachers, nurses, doctors, Peace Corps volunteers, artists, and everything in between. And we are all agreed that this is not the time to build anything in Memorial Circle, and in particularly a monstrous arch that is basically a vanity project of one man who acts like a king. If you are standing on Memorial Circle, and I've stood there quite a lot in the past few months, the proposed grassy area for the arch, you are standing on Piscataway and Powhatan land. On one side of the bridge is Arlington Cemetery. On this side of the bridge is Arlington Cemetery, where many buried there died fighting fascism during World War II. On the other side of the Memorial Bridge is the Lincoln Memorial, a memorial to the president who declared that all men are created equal. So many people here have already spoken they can about why the arch should not be built. All the architects here have made a very good, compelling arguments of this. And we do not know where the money will be coming from about this to build this arch. If private donations, corporations hoping to do more business with the government will gladly grease the palm of the president, pay their way, and reap benefits from no bid contracts and no more lawsuits against them. This is not the American way. If the money comes from national park entrance fees, which we know some of that money is going to the pool, the reflecting pool, there already is a shortage of park rangers in our most beautiful and popular parks in the country, and there's a lot of maintenance that still needs to be done. Short-term gain, replacing long-term, and for what? And if the money comes from the budget that is seeing Medicaid and food stamps, research funding for all kinds of things be eliminated, how does that look to folks struggling just to put food on the table? Really. Our country is not made of monuments or one man. It is made of people. We do not need this monstrosity of an arch that is built to be built. Thank you for listening, and hope you all make the right decision to not approve this arch.
Thank you, Ms. Finn. Next up, we have Stephen Eubank, who I believe is in person as well. Mr. Eubank, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and please proceed whenever you're ready.
I'm here today representing my family and close relatives, 7 of whom would, I'm sure, be here if they weren't interred in the hallowed ground of Arlington National Cemetery, along with more than 400,000 others who served their country defending our freedom and democracy. The proposed monumental arch will be a monumental disgrace to the nation and a monstrous insult to the heroes in the cemetery. I hope those of you foisting it on us will be haunted forever by the ghosts of these 400,000. Like the majority of the Planning Commission, I'm not an architect, but my architect brother says, quote, architecturally, it's so awful it doesn't merit an architectural critique. It couldn't possibly be more unimaginative or unoriginal or uncreative. At nearly double the maximum height allowed under DC's Height of Buildings Act, it's intentionally designed to obstruct views of the Lincoln Memorial, but highlight the Lee Mansion, the former home of the military leader of a war against the United States that was fought to maintain some people's claims that they owned other humans. Maybe you don't realize that Congress established the Lee Mansion Memorial to honor his role in, quote, promoting peace and reunion following the Civil War, and that Memorial Bridge was built to be a literal bridge spanning the gap between Lincoln and Lee and between us as Americans to signify that we could heal the wounds of that war. I agreed that it's a good idea to create a monument to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our founding, but this is not the way to do it. There's been no public input, no considered planning. The majority of Americans don't want this thing. How does that befit a democratic nation's 250th anniversary? Right. In my written remarks, I've noted the planning and completion dates for monuments on the mall. Here are my take-home messages from that. Presidents don't get to build monuments to themselves, nor do they define their own legacies. Instead, we as a nation have clear processes to decide who to honor and how. Planning and construction takes decades. Why the rush in this case? Because, as Trump himself admitted, this is not a monument for the nation, but for himself. There's no one less deserving of a memorial than the man who perpetrates fraud on our courts in order to avoid $100 million in back taxes and to pay off insurrectionists for loyalty to him above country. There's no one less deserving of a memorial in this spot than the man who tried to use graves of those he calls suckers and losers as the backdrop for a campaign ad. There's no one less deserving to be honored with a statue of Lady Liberty than a man who wants to erase history, including the stories of those buried at Arlington who were immigrants, who held at least 39 distinct sets of religious beliefs, and who were of all races, genders, and skin colors. Let him build it at Mar-a-Lago, and I'll pay for a plaque to go with it, reading, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, in despair." Or, even more appropriate, give him a bouncy castle in the memorial circle that captures his total disrespect for this country and its people. We can deflate and remove it the day he leaves office at no cost to the taxpayer.
Thank you, Mr. Eubank. Next up, we have Robert Harris, who I believe is in person as well. Mr. Harris, you have 3 minutes whenever you're ready to proceed.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Cool. Never been in front of people like this before in my life. I want to thank the commission for letting all these wonderful people come and speak. I have never done this before, but I've put up a lot of stuff in the last 6 or 7 years, 8 years. And this ground that he wants to build this monument on is so sacred. It's not to be there. I say with that gentleman, let's move it to Mar-a-Lago and we'll put it there on top of his pool. And maybe he'll like it there better. But thank you so much for not letting this happen, because I'm counting on you not to let this happen. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next up, we have Lawrence McDonald. Mr. McDonald, I believe, is here in person as well. Sir, you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony whenever you're ready.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. That's what I said.
No, it just started at 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
Thank you. I've been checking it out. Am I at 3 minutes?
You have three minutes whenever you're ready, sir.
McDonald, I'm a volunteer with Third Act, a movement of older Americans working to protect democracy and a livable planet. As elders, we are deeply concerned about the legacy we will leave to those who come after us, our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. I invite each of you commissioners to think about your own legacy as you consider your vote. This is not the first time that an autocrat has tried to build a massive arch at the heart of a global capital. Hitler first sketched his idea for a massive triumphal arch in 1926. In 1939, Hitler's favorite architect presented him with a scale model for his 50th birthday. Photographs of Hitler admiring his model and Trump showing off the model of his arch are eerily similar. As you can see from these drawings, the resemblance is indeed striking. Both were designed to dwarf their surroundings and to be several times bigger than existing imperial arches in London, Paris, and Rome. The resemblance is not a coincidence. Trump and his ex-wife Ivanka have both said that he once kept a book of Hitler's speeches beside his bed. There's another striking similarity between these two arches that will ever be built. Plans for Hitler's Arch were scrapped when the Nazis were defeated in 1945. Thankfully, the end of Trump's reign will be less dramatic and less bloody. But one way or another, his time as our nation's leader will end well before this monstrous arch can be completed. Given the overwhelming public opposition to the arch, it is very unlikely that his successor will decide to pursue the project. The question before you commissioners today then is not the future of the arch. It's your personal legacy. Each of you will decide how you want to be remembered. If you vote in favor of the arch, you will cast your lot on the wrong side of history. Your friends and your relatives, your children and your children's children will be ashamed of your action. You can avoid this fate by voting against the arch. This will not be without some cost to you. Most of you sit on the commission because you were appointed by Donald Trump. He will probably fire you. He might call you a mean name. I urge you to grow a spine. These consequences are tiny compared to the price paid by many others who have stood up to tyranny, including the 400,000 Americans who died fighting fascists in World War II, thousands of whom are buried in Arlington Cemetery. Be brave. As you decide how to cast your vote, I urge you to reflect upon your legacy and vote against this monstrous fascist arch.
Isn't it nice that the gentleman thanked the soldiers who died just so that he can call his countrymen fascists and Nazis? That's a shameful display. A shameful display. But you know what? You have the right to do it.
Thank you, Commissioner Blair. Do any commissioners have any questions for this previous set of witnesses? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next set. Those are John Ayers, Rebecca Miller, Kevin Wheeler, Adrian Liao, and Patricia McGuire. Again, excuse my pronunciations if any of those were inaccurate. Mr. Ayers is here with us in person. Sir, you have 3 minutes. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thanks. This is a lesson in signing up early because I have virtually nothing to add to what's been spoken so eloquently and powerfully here today in opposition to the arch. Even after going down many rabbit holes, I appreciate what you said, Mr. Chairman, about the rabbit holes you've been going down. I've done the same thing for the last few weeks, trying to educate myself about this. So I'll try to stick to just a few things that I've learned since others have spoken so well. One is to focus on the comprehensive plan for the national capital. The commission itself has described that plan as, quote, the decision-making framework for commission actions on plans, proposals, and policies submitted for its review. From my interpretation, and I'm not an architect, the comprehensive plan contains at least 12 numbered policies that call for rejection of this proposal. That includes, they're all initials, but they're all publicly available: UDB1, B3, B4, B5, HP A2, D3, A1, A2, POS A1, A2, C5, and C6. In fact, the applicants, as the applicants have documented in their own materials, they violate several of these policies by demonstrating a visual incursion into a formally designated, nationally registered, what's known as a preeminent watershed. One last principle that I think is relevant here today is in the historic preservation element of the plan, and it states that, quote, the commission recognizes that sustained citizen engagement in the public process is fundamental to the broad acceptance of preservation decisions. The public comment before the Commission of Fine Arts on this proposal and the comments here today and in other places reflect near unanimous opposition from the citizens of Washington and elsewhere and others. That record is part of the administrative history of this proposal, and the commission should weigh it accordingly, not as a popularity contest, but as evidence that the broad acceptance the plan identifies as fundamental to legitimate historic preservation decisions has not been achieved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. Next up, I believe we have Rebecca Miller representing the DC Preservation League, who's with us virtually. Ms. Miller, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you, Chairman.
You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready to proceed, and please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Rebecca Miller. I am the Executive Director of the DC Preservation League. We were founded in 1971, and we've spent over 5 decades advocating for the protection of Washington's historic and built environment. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'd also like to note that I am the daughter of a Vietnam veteran who is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. He received a Purple Heart and a Combat Infantry Badge. Piers Charles L'Enfant, grand design for Washington, D.C., created in 1791, was heavily influenced by the European Baroque tradition. This included features such as radiating avenues and monumental gateways that symbolize power and prestige. However, L'Enfant's vision did not account for the future realities of American history, particularly the Civil War and the later development of the National Mall's Western Axis. I bring this to light because of all the images that were presented in your packets of precedents of arches and other monumental gateways to Washington, D.C. The view shed, as we're discussing it, was intentionally crafted by the Macmillan Commission in the early 20th century and highlighted in the Lincoln Memorial Commission report of December 5th, 1912. The report states, if a memorial bridge to Arlington is built directly connecting, as shown on the general plan, the Lincoln Memorial site with the ground containing the dust of those who gave the last full measure of devotion to their country, it will add to the meaning and solemnity of both places. Moreover, linking together the District of Columbia with Virginia, it could serve as a striking symbol of reunion between the North and the South, a most appropriate symbol leading to and from the memorial of the man who said in his first inaugural address, "We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies." The definition of a precedent is an earlier action, event, or decision that serves as an example or guide for subsequent similar situations. It acts as a benchmark, showing that because something was done a certain way in the past is the proper way to handle similar circumstances in the future. We have no precedent for an arch in Washington. All arches have been concepts. The images the applicant included are not precedents. They are conceptual proposals. These are in the initial phase of the design process where the core vision, purpose, and why of the project are established. It focuses on articulating broad outlines of form and function before detailed development or actual execution begins. We have these for many different concepts for Memorial Bridge over many, many years, none of which that came to fruition. Arlington House and the surrounding cemetery symbolize the complex legacy of the Civil War, representing both the Confederate cause and the sacrifices made for the Union. The clear sightline from the Lincoln Memorial to the historic site embodies the aspiration for national healing and remembrance, reinforcing values of perseverance and hope for the united future. Any obstruction, such as an arch or other structure, would disrupt the vital visual connection, diminishing the intended impact of the design. These issues would be discussed and with the goal of avoiding, minimizing, or mitigating through the Section 106 process, a process that has not yet taken place. What we don't want to hear from the applicant is that, well, CFA approved it, NCPC approved this in concept, so the opinions of DCPL, the DC State Historic Preservation Officer, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, or other consulting parties are ignored because your commission has given it a thumbs up. It's important that we have this process going forward so that we can all learn what can be done at this site, if anything. That is what Section 106 is for. And as you have heard, that process needs to take place before this commission approves this design and it moves forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Next up, we have Kevin Wheeler, who I believe is here with us in person. I think people have been having more success with the handheld, but please proceed when you're ready. Yeah.
For me, this better? Yeah. No, still not good.
We can hear you.
You can. Okay, great. All right. My name is Kevin Wheeler, and I want to ask members of the Planning Commission, please, to oppose the design, scale, and location of the Monumental Arch. It is aesthetically unbalanced for the site. The arch's scale is wrong and too large, dominating surrounding sites and blocking existing views. The domineering design and excessive ornamentation lack any of the virtues of DC's architecture that define its understated beauty. The proposed arch would ruin beautiful, simple, and elegant views from the Lincoln Memorial to the hallowed ground of Arlington Cemetery. It is with good reason that veterans are suing to stop the arch. I ask that the record include a link to Philip Kennicott's March 23rd post column entitled "Trump is the biggest threat to DC's architectural splendor since the War of 1812. Kennicott, the Post-Pulitzer Prize-winning art and architecture critic, provides an informative overview of how DC's beautiful urban plan and architecture was developed and why the arch's design and location fail. As laid out in Kennicott's column, in 1806, Benjamin Latrobe, perhaps the first great architect in the America, as he describes it, wrote a letter to Congress. In it, he articulated foundational principles for the art, aesthetics, and architecture of the new republic, which recognized no kings, no absolute authority beyond the laws and constitution. Quote, "Nothing appears so clear," wrote Latrobe, "as that a graceful and refined simplicity is the highest achievement of taste in art. American buildings should be, quote, chaste and simple, and to ornament them just for the sake of service attraction was folly. We find ornaments increase in proportion as art declines or as ignorance abounds." The arch's enormous scale of 250 feet would dwarf the elegant 99-foot Lincoln Memorial block and a picturesque view of Arlington Cemetery. The mile of open space between these two American historical and architectural treasures is part of what makes it beautiful. It's hard not to walk, bike, or drive across the Memorial Bridge and not have a visceral reaction to the beautiful views. It never gets old. Well, why ruin that? There are at least 1,000 reasons to oppose the monumental arch. As of April 16th, the Commission of Fine Arts received 1,000 comments, of which 999 were opposed and one was offering an alternative design. Further, under the Commemorative Works Act, new congressional authority is legally required to build a structure on protected federal land. I recently saw an old Meet the Press clip of former Texas Senator Lloyd Bentsen. He said he asked himself 3 questions when assessing the merits of an issue. Does it work? Do we need it? Can we afford it? If we were to apply that test to the monumental arch, the arch should not be approved either by the Commission nor Congress. No, the arch's design and location don't work. No, we don't need the arch. No, we can't afford the hundreds of millions in construction. We can't afford the maintenance in years to come, especially at the expense of existing parks and monuments that are already neglected. Public is against the arch. The scale and the design don't work. It does not have congressional consent, and therefore it is against the law to move forward. Please do not approve this art, monumental arch. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, sir, but Adrian Liao, who I believe is with us virtually.
Yes, it's Adrian Lau. Sorry, I can't start my video. Oh, yes.
Excuse me, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. It's no trouble. Okay. To the esteemed members of the NCPC, I very much appreciate the opportunity. As many others before me have stated, this proposed arch has arrogantly skipped many legally required steps, as well as the checks and balances our elected Congress could have provided. Because of this, I respectfully urge that you guys oppose the proposed monumental arch at Memorial Circle. The arch, with its 250 feet in height, and topped with these gilded sculptures, would really overwhelm the character and the openness of the Memorial Circle with the complete visual national significant landmarks like the Lincoln Memorial. The strength of this landscape has always been like the clarity and the symbolism, and I loved driving across it. These views, once they're interrupted, it can't be undone. The damage will be there forever. And it's supposed to be meaningful when you drive across it. Memorial Circle currently serves as a ceremonial gateway to Arlington National Cemetery, and this proposed arch introduces so much ticketing facilities and silliness that just doesn't go with the associated calm and historic reflective purposes of the site. So many citizens, preservation activists, veterans, architects, historians, and community organizations have expressed concerns regarding project's location, scale, and impact on one of the most meaningful ceremonial landscapes. While public opinion alone shouldn't determine the outcome of this arch, I think that the consistency that these people bring forward really reinforce the need for careful consideration into what you're going to do here. This is a very nationally significant site, and it should be. Your commission has a responsibility to protect that historic character of that symbolic meaning and the long-term integrity of the National Capital Region. For these reasons, I respectfully request that you guys reject this monumental arch before more resources are wasted even discussing it. You have to preserve this historic landscape and these views that have defined the Memorial Circle and the Arlington Memorial Bridge for generations. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Our last witness on this project is Patricia McGuire, who I believe is also with us virtually.
Patricia McGuire wasn't able to join, so we can move on to questions.
With that, do any commissioners have any questions for this last batch of witnesses? Hearing and seeing none, that concludes the public testimony portion of our consideration of this item today. Thank you to all of you who took the time out of your schedules to come testify. I think the opportunity for public comment on projects like this is important. It's something that this commission always values. And I know given how busy folks' schedules are just in general, taking time out of your day to sit here for many hours to have 3 minutes or 5 minutes to provide testimony on something that's important to you, I think it's a commendable act of civic engagement. And I sincerely thank you all for being here. With that, I'll ask the commission if there is a motion to approve comments on the concept plans for the new monumental arch.
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Levenbach. Is there a second at this time?
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner. And with that, with a motion on the floor, I'll now open it up to the commission for discussion. And I'll start deliberations with Commissioner Barron.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the presentation from the staff and all the work that went into that. Thank you for the applicant for engaging with NCPC. And thank you to all the public that submitted written and showed up today with your comments. I'm here today to represent Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgin regarding the Commission's review of this project. I appreciate the applicant's engagement with the Commission at this early stage and the thoughtful review provided by NCPC staff. The recommendations outlined in the staff report will help inform the next phase of planning and ensure that important technical and design considerations are appropriately addressed as the proposal moves forward. I support the NCPC staff recommendations and appreciate the continued coordination. I look forward to the review of the additional information that was requested in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo. Is Commissioner Argo still with us?
I am.
Commissioner Argo, please proceed if you have any comments.
I don't have any additional comments. I have been scribbling for a couple of hours, taking notes. I'm really struck by the sort of the width and depth of the comments that we heard, the number of people who are interested in this for all kinds of reasons, not just design, but functionality, appropriateness, all kinds of things. It was, I just appreciate all the folks that have come forward that are focused on this and wanted their comments to be considered by this commission.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Levenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for all the commenters who took the time to share your views. So I recognize that reasonable people may have differing views about the ultimate design, scale, and details of a monumental arch at Memorial Circle. And those are precisely the types of questions that should be explored through the Commission's review process, rather than serving as a reason to halt consideration at this concept stage So Memorial Circle is one of the few locations in the National Capital Region where an iconic civic monument could be appropriate. And as many noted, it serves as the ceremonial gateway to Arlington National Cemetery and one of the nation's most sacred landscapes. The site already carries extraordinary symbolic weight, and it's reasonable to consider whether a significant architectural statement belongs in such a location. But this proposal also resonates with me personally. My father's a Vietnam War era veteran, and he passed recently, and he'll be interred at Arlington National Cemetery. And like many American families, my family regards Arlington as a place of profound national significance, a place where service, sacrifice, and memory are honored. And for that reason, I take seriously the responsibility to ensure that any addition to this landscape is worthy of that setting. But at the same time, the presence of Arlington does not require us to reject ambitious civic architecture. To the contrary, some of the most memorable and enduring places in the world are those where architecture, symbolism, and national memory come together in a powerful way. So the question before us today is not whether every aspect of this proposal has been resolved. It is not. The question is whether the concept merits further study and refinement, and I believe that it does. So as this moves forward, a couple things for the project proponents. I think it warrants a close look at the results of the traffic study and whether it's better to route people from the Memorial Drive part of the circle rather than from the bridge. And so please take a close look at that and evaluate just how the best way to keep people safe. I think it'd also be interesting. And we had someone from NPCA here. It'd be interesting to look at the number of visitors. I don't know if fees would be charged. I know there's a significant deferred maintenance backlog of the National Park Service, and the extent to which the monument would contribute toward the National Park Service and its deferred maintenance backlog. I know that's not a part of this. It's out of scope here, but as a budget person, I'm certainly interested in that aspect. And also, of course, all the important issues that were raised in the NCPC staff comments. So I appreciate your attention for that, and I look forward to advancing this concept and seeing the proposal further developed.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Levenbach. I would ask members of the public here to please be respectful when commissioners make their comments in response to this and other projects. I think it's very important that this commission be allowed to do the work that it does. And for those of you who are opposed to this project, I don't think you help your case by heckling commissioners when they make their reasoned comments in response to the proposal that's before us. With that, Commissioner Blair, are you still with us?
I'm here, Chairman.
Do you have any comments on this this proposal?
My only comment really is that I'm being asked to start my video. Sure, I can start my video. My only comment is that I appreciate the discourse, the public discourse here. Everybody has a right to do it, whether you're in favor or oppose. And I appreciate architectural critiques or differences. I think that's fine. I think the personal attacks do a disservice to this process. Really just one commenter in particular. So I guess I will give credit to those who have kept the discussion about the merits of the project and whether or not they like the design and otherwise. I don't see how personal attacks are warranted or even helpful to this discussion. In my view, the fact that the scale is so grand is part of the allure. People are able to have different tastes and what they want to see with the skyline of the city or otherwise. I think that on our nation's 250th birthday, it's a testament to how big our nation is and how great it is. And I hope that arch is standing 1,000 years from now, should it be completed, which I certainly hope it will be. I think it's a testament to how great we are as a country. Frankly, I think that's how the president means it too. So I am in support. I look forward to the continued refinement of the project and, certainly welcome the ongoing discussion that we're going to have here. But I'm supportive. I encourage others to support it as well. And again, thank you to those members of the those opposed to the project who have at least kept their comments reasoned and about the subject matter at hand. I think that is the American way, and I commend you for keeping it that way.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ingracia.
Thank you, Chairman Scharf. I'd like to align myself with the comments made by both Commissioners Levenbach and Commissioner Blair. I'd like to commend the project managers of this for the level of detail, thoroughness, the time, resources, and the amount of progress that has been made over a relatively short period of time. As the GSA rep standing in on this commission, we have a motto at our agency called Project 410, which is in reference to the amount of time it took to build the Empire State Building using 1930 technology, only 410 days. So the fact that we're kind of returning to those principles, making significant progress over a compressed period of time, and making a renewed commitment towards revitalizing the city, not just with this project, but with many other projects, Department of Interior and others, renewing a city that has needed a lot of work, I think is a great thing. It's a forward-looking perspective. And I think having been on that tour, that walking tour this morning, having visited the Memorial Circle, it's definitely an area asking for something grand and illustrious. And having, viewed the marvelous view sheds of our capital city atop Arlington Hill and Arlington House, and I'm just noticing, the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, the Washington Monument, the Capitol Building. These are grand, beautiful structures aligned with our founding fathers' vision for this country. But I couldn't help notice that many of these structures are over a century old. In that period of time, we have not had great, massive building projects that really glorify the Republic in a way that I think this project can do. So I really appreciate the work being done here, the time, the energy, and I see it as part of not just a beautiful structure for tourists, but also part of something that could really enliven and unify the nation and bring beauty and splendor and pride in our country and our national identity at a time that's desperately needed for our country during the 250th anniversary celebration. So, I appreciate all the work that's been put in so far. Also want to align with the comment made by Commissioner Levenbach regarding, just some additional information for our commission regarding, how foot traffic and congestion will be managed in that area, especially coming from the Washington, D.C. Lincoln Memorial Bridge. I just want to make sure that, we count for the safety measures and that we have a thorough and detailed plan to ensure that foot traffic is managed in a good way for this design. But I appreciate the time and the comments, and I look forward to hearing more details in the weeks ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Dixon.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank the staff and those working on this, because when we deal with these sensitive projects, it takes a delicate management of the tools we have as a commission to do this. I want to appreciate they always do a good job, but it's more difficult when these things are sensitive. I also want to align myself with Commissioner Argo because I think we have to be very, very sensitive to the comments that were made. In fact, I support all the comments made by all the commissioners to date at this point in terms of the demeanor and in terms of how we need to be open. And I think the staff has laid out the kind of check marks that need to be addressed as we move forward. And I think that's where we should be moving forward with these check marks. I also bring another dimension to this. I have a brother buried at Arlington Cemetery, and I'm a veteran, a retired 06 colonel in the Army. So I'm a veteran, like those others who have spoken. So we do need to be sensitive to their input because of their service and their perspective. So let's move forward, and hopefully we'll make some right decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dixon. Commissioner Cash.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thanks as always to the staff, and thanks to all the commenters this afternoon, and for all the questions. I think there's been a lot of thoughtful questions here around the dais. But I got to say, I've been really struggling with this project. First, I want to point out, as been pointed out in the staff report, that this vote is not about approving the arch. It's not about approving the size, the scale, or any of that. Right now, we're asked to approve the comments that are in the EDR so that the applicant can come back to us with additional information for the future reviews. But that said, I do have a lot of concerns. I'm concerned, as you might have noticed, by the Height of Buildings Act implications here. I think that's kind of a threshold issue that hasn't been addressed yet. But I also have a lot of the other substantive concerns that have been raised here today. So this morning I was on that walking tour it took a while to get up there, but we got up to Arlington House. And one of the things that I noticed was the Park Service Rangers, because that's Park Service property up there at the Arlington House. They were really excited to tell us that this is not just general lease houses, what everyone thinks about it as. It was actually George Washington's adopted grandson lived there, and it's by many people considered to be one of the first actual memorials to George Washington himself before the other memorials built, and that's a fact that the Rangers were very, very proud of. But when we were standing up there, you kind of look over down the hill, you look over Arlington Cemetery, which is a memorial to our fallen heroes. You look down Memorial Avenue, through the Memorial Circle, across the Memorial Bridge, and towards the Lincoln Memorial. That's a landscape that already means a lot to a lot of people. It's almost a memorial in and of itself. It's a memorial of looking from our founder of the country to the unifier of our country, north to south, and all the other unity that goes together. And that's kind of where I'm having trouble. Is this arch part of that memorial context? Is it going to be another memorial in there? Because we've been told today this didn't go through NICMAC. It's not a memorial. So the applicant, the Department of the Interior, says the purpose of this is to celebrate triumphs of the American people, inspire patriotism, and beautify the nation's capital. That's the applicant's statement, but it's not a congressional finding. It's not something that came through a memorial authorization process. It's obviously not something that's been vetted through a broader public discussion about what belongs in this landscape. And I think that's what I'm really stuck on. The EDR asks for important, albeit very technical information from the applicant, but how will that information help me evaluate this project when it comes back before us? Let's assume the traffic and the pedestrian access works. Let's assume the FAA signs off. Let's assume the historic preservation issues are addressed. Normally, when we're dealing on this dais with a commemorative project, we have a framework for understanding what the project's trying to accomplish. We've talked about memorials to fallen journalists recently. A memorial to President Eisenhower was very big on this commission a few years ago. We know what the memorial is about, then we evaluate the design, the site, the materials, and the visitor experience, and how all of that fits within the context of what the memorial is. This is the lens I've looked at every other memorial or monumental project that's come through this commission in the 11 years I've been on this commission, whether and why this project belongs in this place and for what commemorative purpose it serves. Again, I want to thank the staff for all their work on the presentation. None of my criticism here lies with the staff. It's really on the applicant and the process or lack of a process that we've had here. I hope the applicant comes back to us at our next meeting with some clarity, some authorization, some purpose, like has been the case with every other memorial before us. Then I can evaluate this project in that context that I mentioned. Again, we can't approve or disapprove this project today. That's not what's before us. But I'm going to be voting no on the comments in the EDR because I don't think they can answer the more fundamental question about why this project belongs in this place, and that's a threshold issue. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Cash. Is Commissioner Henderson with us? I don't believe so. Commissioner Giacchetti is also not with us, so we will proceed with Commissioner Cozart.
Picking up where Commissioner Cash left off, I also want to thank the staff for the deeply analytical questions that they're asking the applicant to respond to. And as normal course, it's our expectation that the applicant will respond thoroughly to those, and that they will go above and beyond to really understand what are the sets of concerns that have been raised by this commission, what are the sets of concerns that has been raised in the testimony, which I found very compelling. And one piece of it that I do want to lift up that's not emphasized as much in the staff report is around the alignment with the comprehensive plan. Mr. Ayers' testimony really raised that. And so my hope is that the next time the project comes before this commission, should it come back, would address those critical points that were in that testimony in addition to what's in the staff report. I also look forward to and heard the promise that the Section 106 process will start tomorrow. And that is critical as well and must be on a parallel path with what this commission is looking at. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brush.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank the presenter for a very professional presentation of this project from a neighbor or from the neighborhood of where this monument would sit. We are very, it is sacred ground that it sits next to. We have a sacred mission to our nation from the Department of War at the Pentagon that shares this ground. And so we take great interest in this. I want to thank the courage of the public for their statements today, particularly those that respectfully raised their perspectives of the importance of this ground and the considerations for the committee. I do want to thank the developers, and we look forward to the development of from the concept for the safety, for the security of the area, for the pedestrian access to the area. We think is very important, and I think well on their way for a great concept for that access, but we do look forward to the refinement of that. And so I think thank you for your time today and for that presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, I'd like to echo what several previous commissioners have said with respect to our staff's review and presentation on this matter. As is their custom, I think it was outstanding. I'd also echo what some previous commissioners have said, and that I think the project team has some homework to do. I think on the NEPA issues, the FAA issues, Section 106 issues, as Vice Chairman Levenbach raised sort of the broader traffic picture here. As I alluded to before, I think we'd all like to see more view sheds. So what will it look like from the top of the arch, from other monuments within DC? I think that's all necessary information we'll need in order to reach our final decision here. All that having been said, I think that it is fitting and proper that we commemorate the 250th anniversary of our great republic with a suitable piece of monumental architecture. DC has not, as Commissioner Ingrassi has said, had a major addition to its monumental pantheon, I guess you could say, in a very long time. I think this is as good an opportunity as any to add something to Washington, D.C. that will hopefully stand the test of time and help commemorate what is truly a remarkable accomplishment that our republic, by hook and by crook, has stood together over this past 2.5 centuries. By crook, that's right. Again, I'd ask the public to remain civil. I tried to respect members of the public when they were speaking, and I would ask for the same consideration. I'd also note that within the field of classical architecture, the history of classical architecture, arches are a traditional feature. Many cities in America and around the world have arches. Washington, D.C. currently doesn't. And in light of that, I don't think the addition of an arch to a classical or neoclassically designed city is all that remarkable from an architectural standpoint. I think that it's I really don't appreciate the heckling, but I'll continue. The location here is something that many have criticized, but having visited Memorial Circle numerous times, I think it cries out for something. I think having an open circle of grass at such a crucial juncture in the overall skyline of Washington, D.C. and the overall plan of Washington, D.C. Really doesn't make much sense. So having said all of that, I'm going to vote to approve the proposed comments and advance this project. When this project hopefully comes back before us in the future, I think we'll have to talk about some of the issues that Commissioner Cash raised, particularly the Height of Buildings Act, as I alluded to at the outset of this meeting in my chairman's report. But I would also congratulate the project team on a visually striking and quite remarkable monument plan. And let's see how it goes from here. But I support this project. I'm excited to see how it develops in the weeks ahead, and look forward to having the project team back again in the future. Are there any further questions or comments before we proceed to a vote? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Secretary, can you please confirm the motion and the second and take a vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Vice Chairman Levenbach and seconded by Commissioner Bowron. Commissioner Cozart,
Yes.
Commissioner Brook,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowron,
Yes.
Commissioner Argo,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach,
Yes.
Chairman Scharf,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Ingracia,
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Cash.
No.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. With that, we'll proceed to agenda item 6B, which is a request to approve comments on the draft Civil War Defenses of Washington General Management Plan Amendment. And we have Laura Shipman from our team to present on this project. Laura, please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Scharf and Commissioners. The National Park Service has submitted the draft General Management Plan Amendment for the Civil War Defenses of Washington, also known as the Fort Circle Parks. The Commission previously reviewed the plan concepts in May of last year, and the applicant has been responsive to those comments while noting the limits of the scope to high-level park management and uses. Today, the Commission is providing draft master plan level review focused on issues such as consistency with the comprehensive plan, historic preservation and environmental considerations, view sheds, and connectivity. As background, the Civil War Defenses of Washington were built as a circle of fortifications on high ground to protect Washington, D.C. during the Civil War. The 1902 McMillan Plan sought to revitalize these neglected areas by connecting the forts with the parkway. While never fully realized, this initiative spurred preservation efforts and public investment. By the mid-20th century, these battleground remnants were turned into federal parks. And today, the parks form a historic greenbelt with prominent views to and from the city. The Civil War Defenses of Washington General Management Plan amends the 2004 Fort Circle Parks General Management Plan to meet current and future needs. NPS notes that the city's recreational needs are growing with an increasing population, and often the only land available in some neighborhoods for recreational use is within the Civil War Defenses of Washington parks. Many of the open spaces within the parks are also isolated and lack connectivity with other Civil War Defenses park areas, to community facilities, and to resources outside of the parks. In addition, significant archaeological and natural resources have been identified since 2004 that are located outside of cultural and natural resource management zoning designations. NPS general management plans typically cover a broad area, providing high-level guidance on land management. These plans identify management zones, which provide broad direction for the use, maintenance, and development of national parks. Specific site planning and design then occurs at later stages in the park planning process. This is an overall map of the Civil War Defenses of Washington project area. The majority of the parks are located in the district, with one located in Maryland, Fort Foote, and one in Virginia, Fort Marcy. The proposed management zone updates are intended to enhance the visitor experience, access, and recreation opportunities, while also protecting natural and cultural resources. The draft amendment retains most of the existing management zones from the 2004 Fort Circle Parks Plan and introduces two new zones, including the community garden and site-sensitive recreation management zones, highlighted in green. For each management zone, the plan includes an updated description, desired visitor experience, desired resource condition, and appropriate activities or facilities. These management zone descriptions touch on several issues raised by the Commission at concept review, including specific allowable uses, view sheds, and invasive plant control. With the plan development, staff recommends including a high-level summary of the invasive species management approach for the indicated management zones to prevent overgrowth in the future, and clarifications to the site-sensitive recreation and connecting corridor management zone descriptions to align with the focus area zoning maps that will be shown in the later slides. In response to the Commission's previous comment recommending a continuous trail network linking the parks, the plan outlines an updated route for the Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail, connecting all the Civil War Defenses sites, shown as a dotted line. The amendment also separates the parks into 4 focus areas that geographically encircle the capital from west to east. Staff recommends the final plan include additional information describing why the management zones were selected for each of the focus areas to help guide future planning and inform stakeholders on the rationale for the specific park management designations. First, we will take a look at the George Washington Memorial Parkway and Rock Creek Park West focus area. The draft plan includes side-by-side maps of the existing and proposed management zone designations for each focus area. The changes in this focus area are primarily to Fort Reno to add the site-sensitive recreation zone and additional community and visitor uses, and also to designate management zones for parcels not previously zoned. Next is the Rock Creek Park East focus area, which includes Missouri Avenue, Fort Slocum, Fort Totten, and Barnard Hill Park. The draft plan includes changes to community use-related management zones for recreation and community gardens, as well as a few areas for natural resource protection. The next focus area is National Capital Parks East North, which includes Fort Mahan, Fort DuPont, and Fort Stanton. This area includes a range of added management zones to expand recreation opportunities and connectivity. Of particular note, the management zoning option supported by the Commission was selected for Fort DuPont, which includes the addition of a connecting corridor management zone to allow opportunities for increased multimodal connectivity and safety around and through the park. And finally, the National Capital Parks East-South focus area includes Shepherd Parkway and Fort Foote. These parks have expanded connectivity and cultural resource management zone updates, as well as added recreation management zones. In particular, the recreation management zone has been applied to the Parkland Rehabilitation Area, which was previously approved by the Commission. The Civil War Defenses of Washington sites touch all 4 quadrants of the district, as well as parts of Maryland and Virginia. At concept review, the Commission recommended continued coordination with local agencies and encouraged partnerships to improve the Civil War Defenses parks. NPS included this future guidance in the Park Management Operations and Safety section of the amendment.
Finished.
A few other comments raised at concept review were noted by the applicant to be outside the scope of the plan and should be considered through ongoing coordination and future planning, including improvements to park infrastructure and maintenance near public transit, and safety and connectivity enhancements to the park's visitor attractions, as outlined in comprehensive plan policies. Staff also recommends continued engagement with adjacent communities. NPS released the draft plan and environmental assessment for a 30-day public comment period, which closes on June 15th. The Commission did receive a letter from the Committee of 100 requesting that NCPC postpone consideration of the plan until next month. However, I had an opportunity to speak with a representative of the committee and noted that NCPC recommendations need to be submitted this month to be considered as part of the current NPS comment period. This is also not the last time the plan amendment will be reviewed by our Commission. Once NPS has incorporated changes and finalized the document, the Commission will provide a final review of the plan with consideration for all of the public comments. With that, staff recommends the Commission approve the comments on the draft General Management Plan amendment for the Civil War Defenses of Washington, highlighted throughout my presentation and listed on the following slides, and recommends the Commission support the National Park Service's overall goal to balance the protection of cultural and natural resources with expanded community uses and improvements to the visitor experience. And that concludes my presentation. Shana Scott, Rock Creek Park Deputy Superintendent from the National Park Service, will now provide remarks on the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Deputy Superintendent Scott, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I'm present.
Ma'am, you can proceed whenever you'd like.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. I would like to start off by saying thank you to the NCPC staff for all of your work on this presentation, and thank you to everyone for being here today. As stated, my name is Shana Scott. I am the Deputy Superintendent of Rock Creek Park, and I'm also here on behalf of 3 superintendents responsible for the Civil War Defenses of Washington sites. I'm also joined by Christine Bruins, Planning Portfolio Manager for the National Capital Region, who is here to help answer any questions about the plans. Updating a general management plan and zoning that supports it may not be the most visible or exciting work that we do, but it is vitally important to the community. These decisions help shape how we protect and steward these extraordinary places for generations to come. Over the years, we've heard a wide range of perspectives, from those focused on preserving the historic significance of these sites to those seeking a higher level of developmental and broader recreational use that better reflects the needs and expectations of surrounding neighborhoods. A shared theme throughout has been a desire to see these sites remain relevant and cared for into the future. In the 20 years since the original management plan was adopted, the communities surrounding these parks have changed significantly and continue to evolve today. Throughout this process, we look thoughtfully at each site to ensure we are protecting what makes these places feel special, while also identifying opportunities to better serve the communities in which they exist. This plan amendment lays an important foundation for future projects and continued partnership with the public as we move forward. We appreciate your time and engagement, and we look forward to your questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Scott, and thank you, Laura. Sorry, did I say that before? I'm not sure, but thank you, Laura, for a comprehensive and detailed presentation as always. Do any commissioners have any questions on this project, either for Laura or for the Deputy Superintendent? Hearing none, I believe we have one person signed up to testify publicly on this, and that's Loretta Newman, representing the Committee of 100. Ms. Newman, you have 5 minutes. Whenever you're ready to proceed, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was outside and we couldn't hear much of what was said. So, thing is on. How do I know?
Well, the group's a bit smaller now, so I think we can probably all hear you, ma'am.
Well, okay. Does this work? Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the members of the commission. I've been here before, but it's been a long time and I'm happy to be back. I'm presenting this testimony on behalf of the Committee of 100 on the Federal City. Established in 1923, the nonprofit, nonpartisan Committee of 100 is the oldest citizen planning organization in the nation's capital. I am a longtime member and also a member of the Alliance to Preserve the Civil War Defenses of Washington, an outgrowth of the Committee of 100, of which I am co-founder and past president. And I also want to add that when I first joined the Committee 100, Libby Rowe, former chair of the NCPC, wonderful woman, was the chair of the Committee 100, and I got to be with her for about a year at the end of her term. The Committee 100 has a long-standing commitment to protect the Civil War defenses of Washington. We were the only organization that provided comprehensive comments on the National Park Service's first CWDW, that's what we call it, management plan, finalized in 2004. The current draft plan has much to commend and contains useful information. It totals over 100 pages, and I printed them out off my computers, and I've been scanning them all, and would guide future management of approximately 1,315 acres with 18 historic forts and other fortifications and contiguous areas. So this is a major undertaking. Of great concern, however, is that many of the 18 National Park Service forts are not addressed because, as they say, the new plan is an amendment to the old one. On page 7, the plan states, for the purposes of this document, the CWDW are grouped into 4 main areas, and Laura mentioned those, with associated focus areas. Park properties that are within the project area are not included within the focus area are shown below and would not experience a change in management zones. So the first time I started reading the management plan, I thought, I don't understand. This isn't all of our forts. And sure enough, let me turn my page here. On page 8 of the plan, the included areas are listed, but many forts are left out. A major fort that is omitted is Fort Stevens, the most important of all. It was the site of the only Civil War battle in the nation's capital. That was July 11th, 12th, 1864. And the only time a sitting president has come under, that was Lincoln, has come under direct enemy fire while in a battle. We are currently reviewing the excellent staff report by Laura Shipman. We concur with most of its findings and recommendations. Unfortunately, however, it states, and we've talked about this, quote, there are no proposed changes to Fort Stevens since the 2004 plan, so it is not included in the focus areas. However, there have been a number of changes to Fort Stevens over the last more than 2 decades, and I've been there every step of the way. As I recall, in the early 2000s, there was no community garden, and if the Park Service can show me that there was, I'll retract from that, but that's what I remember. And a swath of land adjacent to Missouri Avenue was added to Fort Stevens to prevent a major development that would have degraded the historic area. And I helped with that as well. We got the National Park Trust to buy this land that was proposed for a major development on land that had never been developed or handled in any way since the Civil War. In addition, several years ago, a huge building was constructed adjacent to Fort Stevens that offers potential for uses for visitor services. And we actually do use it every year in July. We have a commemoration of that Battle of Fort Stevens. This year it will be on July 11th, and I hope some of you might want to come. But it does offer potential uses for visitor services, one of the things that the Park Service has addressed. And I'm really appreciative of being able to study how we can increase the visitor services while protecting the natural and cultural and environmental resources. There are other issues, however, we feel need to be examined. But the Park Service has described this as a final chance to provide input before they complete the required reviews. Park Service announced their new management plan on May 15th, allowing only 30 days for public review with a deadline for comments June 15th. I didn't even see it until May 18th, and some people thought the Committee of 100 was not invited to or not told about the scoping session that was held a year ago. So that has been brought to my attention that we should have been there. And I said, I checked with our chairman and the previous chairman, and they have no record of receiving. Do you mind if I'm the only one speaking today. Can I have a couple minutes more?
Yes,
If I hurry up?
you can proceed for a bit, but
Well, anyway, what I want to say is the Committee of 100 is committed. Well, first of all, this is important. The chairman of the Committee of 100 went to the Park Service and said, could you extend the comment period? That's been done before on projects. But they said they couldn't, at least till July 15th. That would give us plenty of time to do what we need to do to study this plan. And she was told informally that the Park Service might be able to extend the comment period to June 24th, but that has not been confirmed in writing. And indeed, all interested parties must have the same opportunity if we have it. We are committed to giving Park Service detailed, constructive comments, but this will take time and coordination to achieve. Meanwhile, we are also arranging for a bus tour on Saturday, June 13th. That was in hopes that the comment period be extended, but we'll still do it on June 13th, to visit many of the forts to see their current state and to ascertain how the proposed plan would affect them. This information could then be incorporated into our comments. We would welcome any member of NCPC or the staff to come on with us on this tour, so just let me know. I do sincerely thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
thank you, Ms. Newman. The story of Lincoln getting shot at, it's a fascinating one. There's a probably apocryphal story that Oliver Wendell Holmes, who was a young sort of aide-de-camp on the scene, told him, "Get down, you fool." I don't think it ever happened. But
Me either.
Supreme Court Justice. That's the story I'd always heard. But thank you for your testimony, ma'am. Are there any questions for Ms. Newman?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Dixon.
Loretta, it's good to see you, Ms. Newman, back in front of us.
Thank you.
I do have a concern. And as a former member, I guess I'm a life member of Committee 100, but I'm not in participation these days for reasons, conflict here. But is there any way, Mr. Chairman and staff, we can get a window for them to be able to do and get input into the process? I guess it's Park Service call, but we have to answer and we have to just make some decisions. Is there any chance that can happen maybe with the staff to help this?
I'm happy to ask the Park Service. I don't know if we have a mechanism as a commission to compel that or anything like that. Megan?
I just don't see maybe there's some emergency to this, but it seems to me a little more time to get this important organization to participate would be good.
Well, we were told that the reason they couldn't extend this was that the contractor, and this was done by a contractor, their deadline was July 1st. So they had to have everything done by then. I had a small company and had federal contracts and I got some extended. So I don't know why this couldn't get extended. Nevertheless, if we at least had until June 24th, which they said was a possibility, and if they would announce that then and make us feel comfortable that we can plan on that, it would help a lot.
We could certainly reach out to the Park Service and see what's sort of in the realm of the possible here. I know that we scheduled this at this meeting to ensure that we'd have the opportunity to get our comments on the record. So I certainly understand the timeline issues there.
And as I said, we're not opposing the plan. We just want to have more time to go into it. I do know of some things that need to be looked at and should be included. And this bus tours, we're going to go see them for ourselves. Right now, on June 13th.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Newman. Do any other commissioners have questions for our witness before we proceed? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to approve comments on the draft Civil War Defenses of Washington General Management Plan Amendment?
I motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll now open it up to the commission for discussion, and I'll start the deliberations with Commissioner Brush.
No comments. I appreciate the presentation and also the perspectives shared today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bowron.
First, thank you to the commission staff. As always, a really incredible job done. I can't help but notice that we spent several hours hearing from the public on memorials relating to the Civil War, but when it came time to talk about the actual Civil War resources that are in this city, the room cleared out, which is disappointing. And I think preambles and GMP amendments are exciting. So I appreciate the work of the agency to move this forward. I think, when you look at that map that you had up in the presentation, it is impossible not to see how these Fort Circle parks really impact the residents of Washington, D.C. They are an integral part of so many neighborhoods. And I think that the plan really does a great job of balancing cultural resource, historic resource preservation with the modern and changing needs of the city. So I support the staff recommendations and appreciate all the work that went into this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo.
Here I am. There I am. I have no additional comments. I was going to say something about, I remember Ms. Newman has been involved in things even that go back as far as my term in the DC government, and appreciate her interest in her work in this and bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Levenbach.
I think I've spent more time in the Civil War battlefields in Maryland than I have in DC. So I have a couple parks I need to go to around town. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Commissioner Blair.
No comments, but thank you for the work.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ingracia.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the comments. No further comments on my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Dixon.
Yeah, appreciate it. And Loretta Newman, she's been a real soldier for many years on issues like this. And Commissioner, I would recommend you go on the tour with them. It'd be great to see it. As a younger person, I spent a lot of time at Fort Sumter Park in the caves there as a Boy Scout, a Cub Scout, I guess, and Boy Scout. So the parks have been meaningful to me in many ways. So I think it's important in history. It is interesting how the testimony was heavy on other things and light on this, but that's kind of reason why we need a committee of 100 and others to keep tabs and keep involved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it, Commissioner. I actually checked my calendar. I think I'm out of town that day, unfortunately, but I'll endeavor to educate myself as best I can here. Commissioner Cash.
Commented out, but thanks to the staff and for the presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kozar.
Appreciate the work of the staff, appreciate the work of the National Park Service around this as a nearby neighbor of Fort Bunker Hill, and know that the Friends of group cares deeply about it, that they may not be in this room, but they're definitely active around it. So, and appreciate Ms. Newman's lifting this up as well. No additional comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, just echoing what a lot of commissioners said, thank you to you, Laura. And I mean, this is just a massive undertaking, and the care and detail in the reports that we have in front of us really shine through. So thank you. Ms. Newman, I'll also echo what a lot of my fellow commissioners have said. Being relatively new to this commission, we haven't had the chance to work together before, but you're obviously somebody with a great passion for this region, and we obviously appreciate you sitting through a very long afternoon to provide your testimony. I think it's very important that projects like this incorporate both key principles of historic preservation while also respecting neighborhood and community needs. And I think it seems like what we have going on strikes that balance well. And I look forward to seeing how things develop in the future. With that, are there any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Secretary, can you please confirm the motion in the second and then take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Ingracia and seconded by Commissioner Brooke. Commissioner Kozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooke?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowron?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Ingracia?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 6C, which is a request to approve final site development plans for the DDOT South Capitol Street Trail. And I believe we have Michael Weil. Hey, please proceed.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Virtually, I thought. So I got confused, and then
No, yeah,
Okay.
I'm here. Thank you very much. Yeah,
I think I misread my notes here. I apologize.
I can go to my office if you want.
It's-
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman Scharf and members of the commission. The Air Force has submitted final site development plans on behalf of DDOT to construct a new hard surface multi-use trail extension located along Joint Base Anacostia Bowling's eastern side in southeast Washington, D.C. NCPC previously gave this project preliminary approval back in December of 2024, and the commission expressed its support for the new extension since the project is consistent with a number of our transportation policies. In addition, we also encourage DDOT to use native vegetation, pollinator plants, and common milkweed, and to design the project's lighting to minimize light pollution. And staff finds the applicant has addressed these comments in the final submission, as I will highlight during my presentation. Here's where the new 2.5 mile long trail segment under review will be located along JBAB's eastern edge and along South Capitol Street and Overlook Avenue. The new trail segment will begin at JBAB's northernmost gate located at First Sterling Avenue, which is shown here on the right. And the new trail will extend further to the south along JBAB's property past JBAB's main and south gates, as shown here by the thicker red line. And then eventually the trail will extend down to DC Village in the future. The trail expansion will be part of the larger 20-mile-long Anacostia Riverwalk Trail network, which has been planned and under construction by the district since the early 2000s. The trail system has improved walking, biking, and mobility access along the Anacostia riverfront and to locations east of the river. Here are some photos of the existing 10-foot wide trail adjacent to JBAB, which the new trail will match. And then here are several photos taken along the future trail alignment located to the south of where the trail ends today along JBAB's eastern perimeter. The trail will also be adjacent to the South Capitol Street and Overlook Avenue as well. JBAB and DDOT signed an easement agreement back in 2020 to enable DDOT to construct and maintain the new trail. And in some cases, DDOT will relocate sections of the JBAB perimeter fence, along with regrading, planting new vegetation, and installing new bioswales and trail lighting as part of the project. In response to our previous lighting comment, DDOT noted that they will install new LED lighting fixtures with dimming capability, glare shields, and other features to illuminate the trail when needed and to minimize light trespass away from the trail. DDOT's landscape plans show both native and non-native trees. However, none of the proposed vegetation is invasive to this region, and all future tree species have been approved by DDOT's Urban Forestry Division, selected for their durability in urban environments. And staff finds DDOT's landscape plans are consistent with NCPC's pollinator best practices guidelines, which do allow for design flexibility. The DDOT plans do include various pollinator species and common milkweed, as requested by NCPC as part of our preliminary review action. And also, this is also in response to the upcoming public testimony that you will hear today following my presentation. So with that brief summary, here's the Executive Director's recommendation, which notes the applicant's responses to our previous preliminary review comments. And finally, before I conclude, we have both DDOT and JBAB representatives here with us today who are available virtually to answer any questions from the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Do any commissioners have questions either for Michael or for the project team that I guess we have available virtually?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Dixon. I figured you would, given the area.
Right. I've struggled down that route before. Now it's going to be better. I hope I have the energy to walk it. Where is it going to terminate?
All I know is the submission says it'll terminate in DC Village. I do not know exactly. We do have a DDOT representative with us today on the line who can probably answer that question.
Yeah. Hello, Marlon Smoker with Jacobs Engineering. I'm the lead designer for this project for DDOT. Happy to join in today. The trail will extend to connect to the existing trail. I'm blanking on the name, but it connects to an existing trail that extends into Maryland down towards the Wilson Bridge and and National Harbor.
Okay. So we'll get, that's what I was interested in. It'll be able to get people by foot to National Harbor?
Yes.
That's interesting. I'm not sure how that is configured, but I'm sure it'll be clear as we move forward. You're good. I don't know if anybody knows it, but that area over there, just before I get out of the village and to the National Harbor, was supposed to be a golf course at one point, as I recall. But obviously that's not in the mix right now. So thank you for your information. I'll watch to see what the termination points are. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any other questions either for Michael or for the project team here? Hearing and seeing none, we'll now turn to public testimony. We have Bernard Byrne. Mr. Byrne is here with us virtually. Mr. Byrne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, sir. You have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, and please proceed when you're ready.
Yes, thank you. I must disagree with some of the items in the executive director's report on this project. The plant schedule of this project does not align with your pollinator best practice resource practice guide's recommendations. Further, and perhaps just as important, it does not align with the District of Columbia's Department of Energy and Environment's webpage entitled, quote, Native Plants. The plant schedule contains 7 trees, shrubs, and perennials that are not native to the National Capital Region. 6 of these are not native to North America. Some may not provide forage for native pollinators or food for the caterpillars of native butterflies and moths. And here we get to the important point. A tree, Chinese pistache, produces pistachio nuts, but is highly invasive, as has been found outside of cultivation in a variety of environments in 53 counties, all the way from California to North Carolina. The Texas invasive database lists the tree. It would indeed be invasive in this area if it is planted here, and particularly if there's more than a few planted. The plant schedule, so even though it's not yet considered invasive in this area, there's no doubt that it would be. The plant schedule also contains 5 cultivars that are not more resistant to than their parents. More resistant to disease than their parents. These may not feed native pollinators and may be toxic to insects. The District of Columbia's Urban Forestry Division responded to my initial comments by claiming that its practice requires, as I say requires, the planting of a broad range of adaptive species and cultivars for this area, including non-native ones, to ensure that the success and expansion of the urban canopy. This markedly contrasts the District of Columbia of the District's Department of Energy and Environment's native plants webpage, which states that landscape with native plants can help improve the district's natural and built environment. More significantly, that the webpage states that non-native plants can become invasive and harm the environment, and that the district is working to create and preserve native habitat for local wildlife. Nevertheless, despite this, the district's Urban Forestry Division intends to plant native invasive species and cultivars intends to plant non-native invasive species and cultivars as part of this project. Something is seriously wrong here. Maybe one of you can fix it. I tried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrne. Do we have any questions for Mr. Byrne before we release him? Hearing none, Mr. Byrne, as always, I will say that I truly appreciate your passion for the pollinators policy and for the plantings that accompany many of the projects we review. It's always great having you with us, and thank you for testifying today. With that, is there a motion from the commission to approve of final site development plans for the DDOT South Capitol Street Trail?
Yes, I motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, I'll open it up to the commission for discussion, and I'll start deliberations with Commissioner Kozar.
Appreciate the work of the staff. Look forward to this moving forward, adding more mobility. Good to see this joint project between federal and local. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bruck. Have I been pronouncing your name wrong, sir? Bruck.
No,
I apologize. I won't get that wrong again.
No, thank you for the presentation, and I have to echo, it's always great to see the, kind of public and VDOT and the department working together for these trails, and a great opportunity for the outdoors folks for both walking and probably bike riding. So this looks good.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Barron.
Echo other commissioners' comments. Excited to see it move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo.
Same. Appreciate the work and the opportunity to have it advance at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Levenbach.
Well, the trails in this region, including the rail trails, I think are one of the real attractions, and so it looks like a wonderful project. I am sympathetic with planting invasive species is not really a best practice. So I mean, to the extent to which there is one, if it's truly invasive, it'd be nice to take a look at it. And I assume those pistachios are not edible. But for what that's worth, I appreciate the review and support the project.
Commissioner Blair.
No comments. But
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ingracia.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I echo my fellow commissioners about the enthusiasm. No further comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Dixon.
Yeah, I also support the colleagues' comments, echoing, but I also want to point to Commissioner Lorenbacher's statement about the invasive plants. I think if they can come to a meeting of the minds, it would be great. I hope they can look at that. We don't just ignore Mr. Burns. We take his information and try to use it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cash.
No other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, I think this is really exciting. It's dramatically, I think, based on what we've seen at least, it will dramatically increase pedestrian and bike access in this area. I'm a little concerned with folks from JBAB making it down to like the casino and stuff. But other than that, I think we're in good shape. And thanks as always to our staff for the great work that they've done. Thank you to Mr. Byrne for his comments about trees and plantings. At some point, I do want to ask him about the cherry blossoms, which are all over this area and which are definitely not native to DC. I don't know sort of what the pollinator implications of those are, but that's not germane to this conversation. So with that, if there are no further questions or comments, Madam Secretary, can you please confirm the motion, the second, and then take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Brook and seconded by Commissioner Argo. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Brook?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowron?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Scharf?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Ingracia?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. That concludes our agenda for today. Are there any further questions or comments before we adjourn? Hearing and seeing none, our next regular commission meeting will be on Thursday, July 9th at 1 p.m. And this session is now adjourned. Thank you all for being here today.